to the pylon. Harrison's got it. Flag out. Touchdown signal.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
End around to Neighbors. Has a crease. Malik Neighbors down the sideline. Stays in bounds with a cutback. House call. Another LSU touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Millen, ball comes loose, and it's going to be an incomplete pass. No, it's not whistle dead. It's still alive. Turner is going to waltz into the end zone for a touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Texas brings pressure. Duggan backpedals, lofts to the end zone, wide open. Johnson, touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Pokey Wilson in motion. It's Benson. Benson, his second touchdown tonight. 15 yards for Trey Benson.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Here we go on this Tuesday afternoon, 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio. Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter are in the studio today as they will help run the mothership and also prepare for what we have tonight at 10:30. Every weeknight at 10:30, 365 Sports tonight on the CW. TCU trying to stay alive in the College Baseball World Series. Elimination game against Oral Roberts. And the Frogs lead 5-0 that game now in the fifth inning. 5-0 TCU.
6-0.
6-0 TCU. Also LSU Tennessee tonight in an elimination game after what a game last night. Wake Forest and LSU. Craig, not sure if you watched much of it, all of it, or part of it, whatever it was. But LSU seemed to kind of have that. And then Wake Forest just kept chipping away, and they win it 3-2. And now they sit back and wait for Tennessee LSU.
Yeah, it was a great baseball game. Both teams are very good, and Wake Forest is just a tad better and made the moments happen, throughout the end part of that game in particular to keep themselves in it, get themselves, squared up, and then to get themselves, a shade ahead, a run ahead, and hold on to that. So a lot of work they had to do. Fiery crowd. LSU's, just a juggernaut of a sports department right now. Our sports, general sports athletics department at the moment. They've had a great run, but Wake's got a really good baseball team, and they, said Jello shots aside, we are going to be the one to take down the Tigers in Omaha, and they did that, and what a great game it was. But, yeah, a little less dramatic follow-up here today as TCU's cruising. I mean, it's 6-0, fifth inning. I guess Oral Roberts has a couple guys on with an out, but not yet really much of a threat. So we'll see if that changes. Last time they met up, obviously, got squirrely at the end, and that's why TCU took the loss. But they're in pretty good control right now.
It is 6-0, as Craig mentioned. LSU Tennessee will have the evening game. The winner will, of course, look for Wake Forest. Florida waits to see what happens with TCU and Oral Roberts. A couple of notes from the chat room real quickly. By the way, Cole Cubelic will join us, ESPN SEC Network, at 3:30 today. The voice of West Virginia athletics, Tony Caridi, at 4. We'll also have Mack Rhoades at 4:20, Baylor Director of Athletics. Craig's off the radar. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, will join us today on the show. So one of the notes in the chat room earlier, Stephen Heindel, I'm hearing in the Seattle area that SMU is wanting to join the pack. Is there any legitimacy to that? Yes, absolutely. Of course they would love that. We discussed that a little bit yesterday. I saw a story today about an SMU booster that's his name is on the arena or the complex, is very much heavily involved in trying to help SMU. But no, you're not hearing that. That's been reported. Kliavkoff was on the SMU campus months ago. And so, Stephen, that is absolutely at least part of that equation of whatever happens in the future based on the Pac-12? Who stays? If all stay or some stay based on their TV deal?
Yeah, Steven may be one of those people that doesn't follow realignment every day and hasn't been, all on every single rumor and every single storyline that's emerged from this. So, Steven, we appreciate you. And, yeah, there is some smoke to SMU. I mean, to answer your question, yes, SMU wants to join the Pac-12. SMU would love to join the Big 12. They'd love to join the ACC. They'd love to join a power conference, bottom line. But the Pac seems to be their best and probably only bet at doing that. And that's all a matter of the Pac-12 deciding to, move forward once they finalize their TV deal and figure out how that can possibly include San Diego State, who would be their first choice to join the conference, along with SMU probably as the strong second choice. Beyond that, you're talking about teams like potentially Tulane, and who else am I always forgetting here beyond Tulane?
To where, the Pac-12?
Yeah.
It's basically SMU, San Diego State. Tulane has been mentioned. I have not really heard of much of anyone else. There's always that sometimes you'll hear Colorado State be brought up or Fresno State be brought up, but those are just some of the names. And again, a lot of that is speculation.
So, yeah, that's been going on. You've been fortunate if you're just tuning into that because you've skipped over a lot of the waiting game because something's going to have to come to a head here in the very foreseeable near future just because something has to eventually be decided. So potentially that's SMU joining the Pac-12, but remains to be seen on that.
So there's Clint Moses, likely San Diego State and SMU first. And so there we are with some of those. And, of course, the money that SMU has is very much in their favor, along with the location, even though we've discussed major markets and college campuses and actually the eyeballs there. Kim Coulter, it appears to me, this is to Adam, it appears San Diego State might be screwed further. If they wait on the Pac-12 to get their media together, blank together, then they're truly screwed out of the extra $17 million. Intellectually, challenge comes to mind. The Pac or the Big 12 can now pick up San Diego State on the very cheap, you would think, no bargaining leverage, a yard sale. In San Diego, they would have to take almost any offer. That's from Provo Cougar fan. Alan Train saying that Tulane, he thinks, would be a damn good fit for the Big 12. So there's just some of the early chat room thoughts today. Now, meanwhile, the conferences that are changing, including the Big 12, will have the new four officially here in what will it be, 11 days. The Conference USA has a new logo. Conference USA, new look, no limits, and memberships, of course, on July the 1st. And if you'll notice, Conference USA, without the hyphen, is now one. There's like two conferences left right now that have a hyphen. Brett McMurphy had a tweet just a little bit after that time mentioning that Conference USA going hyphenless. We're now down to two FBS hyphen conferences, Mid-American and also PAC-12, the Pac-12 Conference 2.
That is one of those, like, you have to be a college football nerd to care about that, right? I mean, we now have two hyphenless conferences. Like, I mean, I can't even believe that anybody's keeping track with that. But, yeah, like, I wouldn't have thought, at least I wouldn't have thought to keep track of that. But this is a sport where there is a stat for everything, or there's a graphic for everything, even if it's totally made up in some cases. This obviously not. But, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, this college football is just one of those sports, man, where they can have fun with just about anything, or make something a story. And so, yes, the Conference USA hyphenless era has begun, and the Mid-American and the Pac are the lone holdouts. So perhaps they will join suit, or they will hold steady and still represent the hyphen. But more on that, I guess, as time goes by. But yeah, I mean, that's cool. Marketing decision is what I don't know how often people even get those right or wrong. I mean, the Mid-American seems pretty clear. The Pac, I have to remind myself all the time of whether they have a hyphen or not, because they do have one, and it's unique because clearly not a lot of people have them anymore. There's only two now as it stands right now. So yeah, okay, Conference USA moving into a new era where there's been a lot of turnover for them in particular. I mean, we talk about two schools leaving the Big 12 or two schools leaving the Pac-12, or 2 coming in, 4 coming in, whatever. That's nothing compared to what the Conference USA lineup has looked like and how that's evolved and continues to evolve. So makes sense to clean up the symbol, I guess, or to make little changes here and there, because there's a lot of bigger changes that are happening, and be interesting to see when we look back years down the line on whatever college athletics looks like, of how conferences like CUSA and others that don't get a lot of the major focus, kind of where they sit in the midst of things.
Couple of other notes today as the chat room's fired up pretty quickly. JM, if only a couple of schools leave the pack, then they probably will need San Diego State and SMU, and that's if anybody leaves the pack, or maybe not. Also, Paxton saying Tulane would be great. Go Knights from UCF_realist. Go Knights, hello. Big 12, as a lot of the fan base is excited back in the fall of 2021, but now here we are 11 days away from the official entry date of July the 1st. Also, I know for sure we'll have Chris Pesman, AD, at Houston next week, counting down to the entry, along with the others, Cincinnati, UCF, and Brigham Young. Let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk, and it's just all talk, obviously, right? It's just all talk, but, there has been some speculation that San Diego State might be the only ad. That's why I've said for a while now, I'm super curious about the SMU part of this, because that's I feel like a make or break for SMU. I mean, if they don't get into a power conference right now, I mean, I wonder how many more, opportunities there will be.
If they don't get into a conference that needs somebody, then you're exactly
they're not
right.
getting in the Big 12.
Yeah.
They're not getting in the SEC. They're not getting in the Big 10. They're not getting in the ACC most likely. I mean, that wouldn't seem to make a whole lot of sense either. So, yeah, I mean, this is the big opportunity they've been waiting on, and the Big 12's already gone through a couple rounds of realignment here in recent years. They were, at least talked with, but this has had a lot more smoke to it than any of those other opportunities. And so, yeah, that's the curious part, because there is one theory that says, hey, it's just San Diego State, and that's whether 2 teams leave or 1 team leaves or no teams leave. San Diego State might be, in the fray regardless. Although recently, obviously they've kind of put themselves in the middle of a potential problem, but we'll see how that plays out for them. So yeah, SMU's a curious second piece to this, and whether they get that nod or not.
John, I think it's John Teal on Super Chat. Thank you very much. Dear Brett, I think he's referring to the commissioner, Brett Yormark. Wouldn't San Diego State versus Houston be good in Mexico? That'd be pretty cool if San Diego was a part of it, and, of course, with their connections to the northwest tip of Mexico.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be much Big 12 San Diego State smoke, though. That seems to be, like we were saying yesterday a bit, that their preference is the Pac. The Pac's preference seems to be San Diego State. The holdup is the TV deal or whatever else we're not aware of, which there could be plenty that we're not aware of as observers and reporters. But, yeah, I mean, I think that they would be cool in the Big 12 in theory, but there doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of legitimate, smoke there. I think the big part of that's that they would prefer the Pac, number one. The second part of that is that they're not the priority of the Big 12. So they're kind of in that middle ground where, the Big 12 would only seem to make sense if the Big 12 struck out on the Pac and the Pac somehow didn't invite San Diego State, which I don't know what the percentages would be on all that, but it seems like one or the other is bound to happen. And so I don't really see an avenue for that. But it'd be a fun road trip. I'm sure every fan base would love the every other year, whatever sport it might be where you get to go out to San Diego. That'd probably be the one that a lot of people circle, I'd imagine.
All right, from Justin R., I think San Diego State should leave the Mountain West, go independent for a few years until they get a Power 5 invite. That's if they ever get one, including, of course, there appears to be at least that smoke about Pac-12. Also, if they can get a deal that pays around $10 million a year, that would make more than any team in the group of 5. Justin, I'm not being disrespectful. I can't imagine San Diego State going independent. They would get more money than they're getting right now from being a part of the Mountain West. I know their basketball team was phenomenal. Football's very exciting. They're trying to do some things, the stadium, but I can't imagine their value as an independent would get them much at all. Their deal is stay in the Mountain West, figure it out, move on. Maybe there's a door open again, or they're fortunate and the Pac-12 finds a way to invite them, and then, of course, their money would be a lot higher.
Yeah, the only way I see that happening would be if they really did screw up last week and somehow the Pac doesn't want them and the Big 12 isn't interested and they have no choice. But by choice, yeah, that would be a mistake just because $10 million is not going to do a whole lot for you, even if it's, you say it's more than what they're getting or whatever, but that's going to be less than whatever the Pac-12 deal is, no matter how bad you speculate it to be. Right. That's still going to be less than, take the worst-case Pac scenario. $10 million is still less than the worst-case Pac scenario.
$10 million, you would think, and again, the lowest Pac-12 value you kind of hear is in that 2022 range, somewhere around that.
Let's put it this way. If it's $10 million, then the conference is falling apart, and there's teams joining the Big 12. That would be a disastrous number, $10 million. So between that and the scheduling issues, everybody's so locked into these giant conferences now, and they're adding conference games or will potentially be in the SEC's case. Scheduling's a little bit harder than it used to be, and so I think trying to fill out a quality schedule would also be not impossible, but close to it. So, yeah, there's just a lot more negatives that outweigh the positives. They just don't have the brand to carry that. But guess what? Basically nobody outside of Notre Dame and maybe a handful of others could really do that and pull it off, or the service academies.
Yeah, I even think with Texas getting that deal from the Longhorn Network and ESPN, which was a nice chunk of money every year for a long time, that they were at one point about 10, 12 years ago at a level where they probably could have tried it. I think Stanford can try it. And then Notre Dame, of course, we know. Brigham Young's done it on and off. Florida State once did it. Miami once did it. But most everybody eventually wants to settle into the confines, scheduling-wise and more, with some sort of conference.
Look at Liberty. They were independent, and if it was so great for them, and they got a pretty good amount of money, but, they eventually said, nope, we're going to go to a conference route, because I think for, all the various reasons, the automatic revenue that comes in, and plus, what kind of a TV deal would San Diego State get? If the Pac-12 as an entity with all these major markets are struggling to get the kind of money that they're apparently looking for, or that's the rumor, and they're taking a year to figure it out, then I can't imagine where San Diego State would find themselves. That would be disastrous as far as exposure goes.
All right, so thank you, a lot of you early on already, for conversations, and a lot of it surrounding the possibility of and the options of realignment. JM, Big 12 wants to add only Power 5 schools because TV partners have made it clear they will pay full share going forward if they were to add any of the Power 5 additions. And that was a part of the extension that the Big 12 has with Fox, et cetera, ESPN, of course, involved going forward. Hey, by the way, if in case we're fortunate enough to add a couple of teams or not, what do you think you can do? And that appears to be something that's locked in.
Yeah, that seems to me like it would be hey, we can get Colorado and Arizona, and we got, we could add another, maybe you'd add, as what I mean? As far as a travel situation goes, maybe they would take a little bit out of it, but the fact that you'd be adding two more that would be.
I don't think there's any doubt, yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense if you were adding San Diego State, but by themselves for the Big 12, that doesn't really work out that well.
Yeah, and this is an interesting question. I talked to Mark Ziegler back and forth today by text. He joined us Friday on the San Diego State back and forth letters with the Mountain West, and then there was another story yesterday by Pete Thamel that there might have been one more communication between the two. MH5, if San Diego State messed up enough to get kicked out of the Mountain West and Pac doesn't move, could the Big 12 pick them up as an affiliate member and throw some money at them? And that goes back to whatever that pro rata would be, what Fox, ESPN, and the television partners of the Big 12 have agreed upon. Is there a list of 6 to 8 names, or is it just among what are now currently Power 5 schools?
Can Mack Rhoades answer that?
I think we'll ask him. We will ask him that question when he comes on. I was going to ask him also this question, Craig, that involves exit fees. So San Diego State in the last, year or so, or 3, has brought into the Mountain West approximately $10 million in men's basketball money. Now, the men's basketball money is not distributed as soon as the tournament is over or even within a year. It's over a 6-year period of time. So if San Diego State happens to leave the Mountain West, they could forfeit the money they've earned from the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And yes, some of this could be negotiated, but one of the other things is if you are going to forfeit or you're going to have to pay $17 million, or let's say it does go to 34, or if it's 24 if they negotiate, does that money come out of the money you're supposed to get, or is that money you yourself as an institution have to send the Mountain West or the Big 12 like Texas, Oklahoma did, and others?
Okay, so I'm not fully caught up on like every single detail as closely as some who like are really on top of like all the legal jargon and the contractual, language and things like that. I saw some pretty good conversations just perusing through, various social media last night. And there was one, and I thought I bookmarked it, and I wish I thought I did. I wish I had made better sure of that, because I saw somebody, and it was just somebody completely random. Like, I don't think I've ever even seen their Twitter account before, and they're not affiliated like media-wise or anything. They're just like everybody else, just like trying to figure out what's going to happen and having fun speculating on what that might be. But they broke it down in a way where, I mean, basically, I'm trying to remember exactly, but most of these can get whittled down negotiation wise anyway. So
right.
If you take like the $10 million or whatever it is from the basketball, okay, so here's basically what it was. Since the conference has said that they are acting as though San Diego State submitted their bid to leave, right? That like, even though San Diego State said, no, we were just looking into it, and they've said, no, you guys absolutely were. So they can't have that double payment come up and sneak up on them here at the end of the month without a deal. Like, they've already, in the eyes of the conference, made their intentions known. So they're only playing that. What was that fee of the? It was like the $15 million versus after
like
July 1st.
17 or 34.
Yeah, it was like 17 now, 34 after July 1st, something along those lines. Well, they're locked into 17 now.
No matter what.
Yeah, because they've made their intentions.
Based on how the Mountain West responded to what they thought was their intention.
Right, so the Mountain West, whether intentionally or unintentionally, like holding their feet to the fire, they basically locked in that they're not going to have to pay $34 million if this goes past July 1st, because by saying, no, you gave us notice, then that locks them into that $17 million for one. You take the $10 million from basketball, you'd whittle it down in negotiations like you typically would a deal anyways, and what are we really talking here? We're talking very little money. And that's not even, and that's just counting like the basic on the surface things. And I could be missing like a part to this as well from like football or something that is not included. But if you're locked into 17 now, no matter what. That's official since the conference has already made that known. You got 10 that you're owed. That's 7 remaining. You can negotiate it down to 4.5, 5, or whatever it might be. And I don't know where there might be some other money either that I'm not thinking of, or that was in that tweet and I can't find it. That basically you almost break even, give or take a couple. Does that make sense?
Yes.
As far as getting out and the money you'd have to pay and all those types of things.
If you're going to get in the Pac-12?
Right. Well, yeah. That's
no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what
that.
all dependent on is them going to the Pac-12. But, yeah, as far as, like, the money they'd have to pay to leave, I think that not being locked in and then getting caught after that date would have been a far worse thing, where you're suddenly $34 million. Like, I don't know where that's coming from, because even if you got 10 from whatever was owed to you, that's still $24 million. Yep. I mean, whereas now it's, $3-4 million, give or take, maybe add on $1 million or $2 million one way or the other, or subtract one way or the other, depending on what else they have up their sleeve. But it was a really clean and simple way of breaking it down that doesn't make it look nearly as harsh as it might seem based on the reactions yesterday, where it was like, oh, they screwed themselves. They are up Ish Creek and they have no paddles. It's like, no, they've got paddles and the water's okay.
If they have paddles, if there's a boat out there for them to paddle.
But there's a very small leak right now, and it's okay, but they got to get on their way. And if they don't, then that leak could spring and it could be worse. But right now, it's not full-on panic, but it could turn into that, potentially, depending on what happens the next few days.
Alan Tran, and then we've got a break to come back with Cole Cubelic, but Alan Tran mentioned that the Mountain West Conference commissioner is rude. No, she's not. She's doing her job, protecting the conference. San Diego State wrote the letter. Everyone knows about the speculation about the possibility of a future offer from the Pac-12, if in fact that ever comes. And so she gets a letter, and because of the letter being sent not to just her, had the letter been sent to just her asking for some sort of a maybe leeway or an extension, it was sent to everybody in the conference. And so by based on their bylaws, that opened up Pandora's box. They could take it as if they're leaving and telling the Mountain West we're on our way out. No matter what the second letter was from San Diego State saying, no, that's not what we meant. Listen, I don't want San Diego State to get buried here. I want everybody to find a way, but they kind of pooped in their pants there a little bit with that opening letter to the Mountain West, and the conference commissioner was only doing her job. Right, we got a break. Cole Cubelic is coming up from the Cubelic, from ESPN and the SEC Network. And, at some point we'll go back to the SEC conference and their football schedule, or what is the future. His thoughts about which teams benefit the most starting in 2024, which ones will suffer the most, and then just college football landscape in general. And this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor with every imaginable brand of cigar you could imagine. I was at the pool the other day, and one of the guys at the pool said to me, he goes, "Hey, what cigars do you smoke?" Because he was about to go on some sort of a reunion. And I said, "Ashton, Macanudo, La Fontana, Rocky Patel, La Galera, and there's many more. I am not one of those that can smoke a harsh cigar like a Cohiba or Padron, even though those are very good. And most brands have what you consider maybe a smooth or a lighter type of flavor or blend. And then there's some that can basically put a hole in your throat. And with me, I struggle with some sort of heartburn on occasion anyway. So that's always why I try to protect that. You have a heartburn and yet you're smoking cigars. I don't smoke them, inhale them. I smoke them just to kind of enjoy them. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans also, they have the humidors to put your cigars in, the cutter, the punch, the torch lighters, and CBD products, including Vita Dreams. It's a gummy allowing you to take one. You kind of learn an hour out when you want to go to bed, or 30 minutes, and it'll help you fall asleep much more comfortably, and you get that extra 30 minutes to an hour of rest. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with Carol, Ashley, Cheyenne in the Town West Shopping Center in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's Ram season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas and save big on Ram trucks. Now offering 10% off MSRP on a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or get 2.9% for 72 months. The choice is yours. Plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Cole Cubelic with ESPN and SEC Network joins Craig Smoak, David Smoak on 365 Sports. Cole, thank you very much. What has been the best thing you've done this summer outside from a chance to get away from work?
I'm probably just hanging out with my kids, honestly, having a little bit of extra time to be around them and hang out with them. We went to the beach last week for about 5 days. Had a chance to unplug a little bit and just spend a little bit more time with them at home, not having to travel on the weekends and during the week, and less conference calls, things like that, a little bit less film. So it's been nice hanging out with those guys a little bit more.
Who would you say, outside of the ones that most everyone will believe or do believe that is the best teams going into the 2023 SEC season, do you have a dark horse or two among those in the SEC?
I think it's interesting because I think that when you look at the SEC West, Alabama and LSU are going to sort of separate. That could be 10, 11, 12 wins, but they're not going to be too far behind any of those numbers, in my opinion. I think everybody else has an opportunity to either get the double-digit wins or maybe fall back to 5 or 6 wins. I mean, I could sit here and sell you on Arkansas and KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, but they lost offensive lineman, they lost their tight end, don't know what the weapons are going to look like. Defensively, you got a little bit of a change. It's going to be a different scheme. Are the transfers going to continue to work out the way they have the last few years? But there's also a new offense for KJ. Mississippi State, really good running back is Jaquavius Marks coming back. Jaden Wally, a wide receiver. Will Rogers at quarterback. Most of the offensive line's back, but they got a complete 180 on offense, going from the air raid to a stretch zone, run first, heavy play action scheme. I mean, those guys have been taking a vertical pass set 70 times a game. Now they're going to rerun an outside zone like you guys see right there with Baylor and what Grimes and those guys run about 35, 40 times a game. I mean, that's a different world to live in. Their whole front seven's back, but you got a first-time head coach. I don't know how that's going to work out. You expect some mistakes along the way. Hugh Freeze has gone out, and his guys have killed it in the portal. I mean, he's gone in the portal and gotten the best quarterback on the roster, the best tight end on the roster, the best 2 receivers on the roster, the 2 best tackles on the roster, the best center on the roster, the best interior defensive lineman on the roster, and probably the 2 best linebackers on the roster. Now, are they going to be able to put all that together? Everybody going to be on the same page? I have no idea. So, Ole Miss, they got some experience back on their offensive line. They've got options at quarterback. They've got the best returning running back in college football, in my opinion. New defensive coordinator. I think they've finally got some capable bodies inside on that defensive line, but I don't know where the depth is. And then with Texas A&M, probably the most talented roster of all those teams, but is there a culture problem? I'm not making that accusation. I'm saying I don't know. And based on the way some things went last year, I think it would be very easy to assume that that's a possibility. So one of those teams, I mean, if I'm your listeners right now, I'm taking all those teams I just mentioned, and I'm betting the under on all of them with their win totals, because there's no way in hell that they're all going to finish over. So I think by default, you probably win your money back and come out on top. But I don't know who that's going to be right now. I mean, you look at schedule, you look at quarterback, and you look at depth. However you wanted to play that out, I think you would probably have Texas A&M would probably be in the best shape of all of those. Mississippi State maybe next. But I think it's a coin toss, literally, with all of those teams. One of them is going to separate. I just don't know exactly who it's going to be right now.
Cole, you know Auburn about as well as anybody. You're a Tiger. Hugh Freeze, obviously a heck of a football coach. Big swing for them bringing him in. And what have you noticed? What has been maybe different from recent years or just years past? What's kind of the fingerprints that he's laid on the program so far and the changes he's made? What stood out to you?
Well, the first thing is alignment. And you guys know how important that is in today's college football. I feel like the administration, the alumni, the lettermen, the fans are more aligned in that athletic department and around that athletic department than maybe ever in my lifetime. I mean, guys, think about, Terry Bowden went undefeated, and I was playing on a team, and we got fired in the middle of the season. Tommy Tuberville, should have had a chance to play for a national championship, had an undefeated season, won the SEC a couple of times. Jetgate, they tried to go to Bobby Petrino and get him out of there. Gus Malzahn gets a contract extension when apparently, half the boosters didn't want him to get it. It's never truly been everybody pulling the same direction, and it feels like right now it is. Now, that being said, he's cleared the first obstacle by a mile, and that is accumulating talent and upgrading the talent on the roster, putting together a good of that nature. Now, he's got to organize it. He's got to motivate it because, as you know, you need to be on the same page. You got to know how to communicate. You have to know your assignments. You have to know how and why things operate the way that they do, and then you got to motivate guys to go play hard if you're going to win games. So there's still a lot in front of him for his initial, as far as everything that goes into him initially being hired. But so far, the guys running the Auburn Collective, probably too smart doing that, doing some other things that would help us, the greater good of planet Earth, but they got a lot of good people on his side, and that's shown up not only in the portal, but now it's starting to show up in high school recruiting. They got a big linebacker target out of Tuskegee the other day that Georgia and Alabama really wanted. They're bringing in talent at positions that just hasn't been on campus in a long time. So I would say so far so good for the Hugh Freeze hire.
Cole Cubelic, ESPN SEC Network with us on 365 Sports. Outside of the SEC, Cole, what and how much do you pay attention to the lingering issue the Pac-12 has with no TV deal?
I find it hard to believe that that's their only issue, but honestly, it's disappointing, guys, because especially I think maybe the most disheartening part about it is going into this year with the quarterback prowess that's going to be back, the legitimate contenders. Now, a lot of things would have to happen, but I think Washington's going to be a really good football team. We know the returning Heisman winner and Caleb Williams is back at USC. But I think Michael Penix Jr. is a hell of a player. Dylan Johnson, the running back they got from Mississippi State, is going to help them a lot. The entire receiving corps back. Most of the front seven's back. That's going to be a good football team. And I think they got a really good coaching staff. Obviously, Kyle Whittingham has exceeded all expectations in Utah. Cam Rising coming back. That's a team that could be scary. Bo Nix took massive strides last year at Oregon. Dan Lanning's got that thing going in the right direction. It could be, even Jaden DeLar at Arizona is a guy nobody talks about but can light it up. There could be some very compelling, very competitive, high-level football being played in the Pac-12, and it's all going to be overshadowed by all the things we're talking about now. San Diego State, I don't know how they get out of this mess where they tried to, they apparently asked to get out. They said they didn't ask to get out.
Yep.
Wanted to be able to pay their exit fee in installments. Now they're not going to have to not pay an exit fee, and the Mountain West is saying, no, there will be no installments. You're not going to get an extra month to be able to get out. They're going to punish them, and I don't blame them. You got to hold people accountable. And now you hear some rumblings of Colorado and Arizona. Apparently, they may be in talks with the Big 12. It's been one thing after another.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's like playing dodgeball with your hands tied behind your back. There's no real way it feels like they can survive. So I hate it because whatever's going to happen 5-8 years from now, this year has a chance to be really exciting football in the Pac-12. and it's probably going to be overshadowed by a lot of the stuff going on off the field.
Deion Sanders has, off the field, been a major headline maker for that conference as well this offseason. I mean, that hasn't really been overshadowed, but perhaps a little bit, especially if, that's a school that decides to do something different. But what are your expectations, Cole? I mean, you obviously can see through a lot of the media circus, and it is a big, popular public figure, and there's just something a little bit different to it. The way he's changed over the roster's been debated, all these different things. But where do you just kind of stand on your expectations for Deion and that Colorado program initially?
I have no idea. I really, I mean, how can you when 70% of your roster has been turned over? I'll say this. I think Coach Prime's got a lot of people fooled into thinking that he is some sort of smoke and mirror artist or that he's some kind of magician. I think he's calculated. I think he's highly intelligent. I think he is very adept at knowing how to build a football team. I think there are certain people who talk about his actual coaching acumen. But let's not pretend like Coach Prime is the only one in college football that's not calling plays on one side of the ball every Saturday. He has raised the level of talent immensely with what they've had. Now, that's also a team that won one football game last year. So I don't know if that means that they've raised it enough to go win 5, 6, or 7. But, I mean, hell, if he wins 4, that's a massive improvement, even though people are going to say, oh, look, they still have a losing record. They're just not a good team. But they got a long way to go. I'm very concerned about depth in the trenches, the level of play that they'll be able to have in the trenches. I've watched a lot of Jackson State offense. Auburn's getting one of their receivers. Ole Miss is getting one of their receivers. So I've gone and studied those guys. Shedeur Sanders didn't get a lot of good protection last year, but he's got a ton of talent. He's got a big arm, and he can make a lot of throws, make a lot of plays. They put a great coaching staff together. I think Sean Lewis is exceptional as a play caller on offense. He's former head coach, so he's got multiple head coaches on his staff. I always respect the guy that can do that. I think he has a plan. And just because his plan was very different than other plans that have been attempted or implemented doesn't mean that his is wrong. Now, do we know if it's going to work? Of course we don't. But I wouldn't rule it out just because it's not being done the way that it's been done by a lot of people before. I mean, how many coaches from certain coaching trees, trust me, I live in Alabama, we don't have to look too much further there, have had guys from that tree go out and not be successful head coaches, and they try to do it the exact same way. So a lot of times, and if there's anything we should know about college football right now, it's just the way it's always been done is not very applicable these days with a lot of things. So I'm very interested to see it, but I'd be lying to you if I sit there and told you I had a very good feeling that they were going to win 7 or 8 or they were going to win 2 or 3. I just don't think there's any way to know because a lot of those coaches hadn't worked together. A lot of those players hadn't been in the same uniform together. And it's going to be a wild ride to sort of pay attention to just how it all worked out.
And they open against TCU, who doesn't have all of what they had back. A lot of it's gone, but they'll still be really good with Sonny Dykes and what he has brought in with recruits and transfers themselves. So, Cole, the college football playoff, one more year left with 4, and then they move to 12, 6 of the highest-ranked conference champions, and then 6 of the highest-ranked teams remaining. I saw or listened to part of Nick Saban on with Joe Klatt about the 4 teams, and is it the 4 teams, this and that. How many teams, in your opinion, and we know where the SEC ranks with most everybody because of what the success they've had the last 20 years, how many minimum, will the SEC have year in and year out among the 12?
3, never fewer than 3, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think 4 very possible. I find it hard to imagine that it would go to 5. I think you'd have to have a really down year in a lot of other places for that to take place. But I think it's going to be 3 or 4 every year, and no less than 3 on any given year, especially when going to 16. And when the Big Ten goes to 16 teams as well, you're not going to have 4 or 5 undefeated and 1-loss teams. So I think our perception of the records is going to start to evolve and change a little bit. And I think that's kind of what Nick Saban was trying to say, or maybe trying to set people up for with this Vegas odds conversation, which I actually don't agree with. I don't want Vegas deciding who plays in games. I don't want Vegas, letting us know by their point spreads who should be ranked 1, who should be ranked 3. Listen, I still believe that you earn your way into the postseason. And, to say that this would have been the point spread, we should have been in, I'm not going to get on board with that. That's not what their jobs are. Their jobs is to have a certain amount of money placed on both sides of the game, so they obviously don't get taken. And that to me doesn't necessarily go as far as deciding who's better than who at football. So I think what he was trying to set people up for is get this undefeated, one-loss teams are the only good teams sort of out of your mind, because we're getting ready to step into a new era where it's going to look very different. You're going to have 3-loss football teams that maybe are one of the best 3 or 4 teams in college football. But it's kind of the way that it goes. And that's a little bit of his NFL mentality that comes out. He's always going to have that deeply ingrained in him. So I feel like that might be where he was trying to go.
That's a great explanation, Cole, and I'm right with you there on the whole Vegas odds and letting that be like kind of what. No, absolutely not. I think that would be terrible as well. I know you got to run here, but did want to ask you after the big schedule release, all the hoopla that we're going to have over this being the final year for a lot of different things. You mentioned the Big Ten and in the SEC as well. Obviously, will change after next season. We now have a taste of what Texas and Oklahoma are going to face in year number 1. I know you've talked a lot about those programs and them entering, but just what were your initial thoughts when you saw the schedule released, and where do you stand on how much of a learning curve there might be for one or both of those programs?
Initial thought was excitement, just seeing those two teams, those two brands, knowing they're going to go to some of the venues that they're going to go to, and then some of the SEC teams are going to go to their venues. Obviously, Austin, Norman, just fantastic places to play college football. And then those two teams, just what they bring as far as their fan bases, their passion, and quality of football. I do think there'll be a learning curve at the line of scrimmage, maybe some athletically, not quite as much. But just the overall size, strength, physicality, I do think week in, week out is going to take a little bit of catching up. But there was also a little bit, like, it's cool to see that a game like South Carolina, Oklahoma was going to happen, and that's never happened before. Like, that was exciting. A couple of other matchups that haven't happened since, the 40s or before that. But there was also a little bit of disappointment. Like, me as an Auburn letterman and Auburn graduate, I look down and there's no LSU, there's no Mississippi State, there's no Ole Miss. Like, that's weird, guys. Like, that's. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think you guys understand very much so from a Big 12 perspective that just because we don't label certain games rivalry games, and there's not a trophy that they play for, and they don't have a cute nickname, they can still essentially be rivals. And that's what I've always looked at LSU as. I've always looked at Mississippi State and Ole Miss as. I've always looked at Arkansas as, because we play them every year. And you go back in time and you think about the different players that you face, and you think about, man, that guy, I can remember from an Arkansas perspective, it's like they had a running back named Fred that ran for 200 for like 5 straight years, and it was always an 11 or 11:30 game. It's like Fred Talley, Fred Smith, just over and over and over. Like, I'll never forget that, and I'll never forget playing in Fayetteville and double duty Davenport, caught like 5 balls for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, we couldn't stop him. And then you remember Darren McFadden, and you remember guys. Those are the things that stick out. And if you lose, you're like, you know what? We get those guys at our place next year. We got another shot at them. If you beat them, it feels even better because you know all that tradition and all that history that's been there and accumulated over time. So it was a little bit, I'll be honest, a little bit painful to see a couple of those go away because they're important, because they have history. There's tradition there. There's memories there. We all have games that we watched when college football was the most impressionable to us. And I know either as a fan, as a kid, as a player, or since, all those teams that Auburn's not going to play every year anymore, and other, like Mississippi State and Alabama, not on the schedule. Man, there's been some slugfest between those teams over the years. A lot of fun to watch. And people don't realize those two schools are only 40 minutes apart from each other. So it's just losing some of those on an annual basis is going to take some getting used to. But I do think with that small negative will come a lot of big positives that a lot of people will be really excited about.
And hopefully a ninth conference game to solve some of that in the near future, not this year, obviously.
I think it's there in 25. I think ESPN, Disney, I think they pony up a little bit. They make it right, and they get there. That inventory is going to be super valuable. So I would never blame Greg Sankey for not doing it without some sort of financial bump. That's his trump card. I mean, that's his last. You think about that. That's his ace up his sleeve where he can say, hey, we want this to go up a little bit, and this is the one thing we've got. We can make your inventory this much better on an annual basis. So I think in 25 it goes to 9, and there'll be a little bit extra money that's thrown in the way of the SEC.
Cole, great segment. Thank you very much. It's always a great segment. Appreciate you being on. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy whatever downtime you have between now and SEC Media Days. And then, of course, here we go. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely, guys. 10 Saturdays. Can't wait.
Yes, sir. Cole Cubelic, again, ESPN, the SEC Network, on many things. Earlier, as we started the segment, I don't like to talk about SEC. Well, it's impossible not to. Yes, we cover a lot of Big 12, but we cover college football. And Cole is not just someone we can discuss. Oh, let's discuss Auburn, Alabama, SEC, LSU, whoever.
We didn't even talk Alabama, really.
Well,
he brought up Saban's comments just to explain something else.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm with you. I mean, if it's one thing turning to ESPN, you also sometimes have to understand, I would challenge you to do a 3-hour radio show 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and try and just strictly talk Big 12 football.
Yeah, unless they go to 38 teams, it's going to be tough.
I mean, it's if that was the case, SEC, you got 16 teams, you got all these massive brands, and they find a way to do it. We talk a lot of Big 12 or various others as well, but I do love college football. I'm not stuck to one lane, and so I do like, and I like what Cole does. So I appreciate his insight. And I think too, man, like if you could just strip away the negative feelings that come from all of the trash talking and the air of superiority, or just the tired head from all of the national championships that have now stacked up really since 2000 for that conference. Like, look, I've had my moments where I'm so sick to death about hearing about the conference. I think it's silly sometimes the way that certain fans act like they were the ones taking the snaps behind center and were raising the trophy at the end of it. I mean, there's some things that definitely annoy me from time to time. But, I mean, in terms of storylines and just interesting things, it's super fascinating. Just the coaches, the players involved too, but like the coaches involved in that league now at this point with this last round of the cycle, what's to come, with the Oklahoma and Texas moves. It's fascinating. And, he brings up a valid point that we've talked about as well. Like the Pac-12 is super interesting this year with all the quarterbacks that they have and the way that league is set up. So, yeah, we're going to dabble outside the normal parameters on occasion. And when we do, he's a good guy to talk to.
We have a couple of super chats, Jack. Let's come back with them after the break, and we'll do that before we eventually hit the 4 o'clock hour. Mack Rhoades and also Craig's Off the Radar in the 4 o'clock hour. We have a super chat to get to from back a few minutes ago with Chris. And then also John Tell, I think I'm saying that right, John Teal had another question about what if, in fact, the Big 12 was to look at adding San Diego State. Would that mean in reference to the states they would be a part of? All of that and a lot more. Appreciate your time. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas. And always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, let's go back a little bit, plus a lot to get to in the chat room. We also will have down the road the NBA mock draft that was put out today by ESPN. The draft, of course, is Thursday, and the Big 12 flavor, that's something for us to have. Mack Rhoades in about 25 minutes or so. But let's get to the Super Chats. One of them was with Chris, and Chris was saying now that Texas and Oklahoma are on their way out of the Big 12 towards the SEC after one more year, how would you rank, and I don't want to do all 12 of the remaining teams, but how would you rank the best athletic departments among the rest of the Big 12?
Gosh, I mean, like an off-the-cuff thing, this is not going to be what I would answer if I had like a couple hours to pour through, the latest updates on facilities. Like, we have a loose idea on some of them, like Texas Tech or, some of the others that have occurred here recently, obviously Baylor.
I would say it has to be,
like,
when I look at the facilities. I would say facilities.
I'm talking just facilities. Like, I don't know, though. Like, that's just what has come across my page. I've been updated, whether intentionally or unintentionally, on what's going on at Baylor, what's going on at Tech. K-State's got things in the works.
Oklahoma State's got a lot of building.
Oklahoma State's
you mentioned Tech and Baylor.
But I don't know, like, where they all stand together. So that's what I mean is, like, off the cuff, the answer would probably be different from studying and actually looking through like what everything is.
I would think, and this is not studying, this is, to me, it's hard to argue with what TCU has done.
Yes.
With football in the championship game, regardless of the this unbelievable route. Men's basketball made a trip into the tournament. Baseball is in Omaha, and they're up pretty big. They're going to play at least an opportunity to get to the next level of that tournament. With all due respect to women's, Tech in their track and field, basketball was down because of the drama.
Well, let's just go like the strength of the schools in order right now, how you view them, and like that includes athletic department, that includes the facilities, and like just what you think about them. I still think sans OU Texas, obviously. Let's not include. Are we including the new 4? Because I don't have as much of a grasp on them just yet in terms of
all of them bring strengths to the table.
Right.
Let's go ahead and discuss. Let's get through the first remaining 8 if you want.
Okay.
And we don't need to spend more than 5 or 6
Right.
minutes on this, but we'll get through the list. Chris, thanks for the super chat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put mine together here, actually. But, yeah, I think it just kind of depends on what you're looking for in some cases, and a lot of it might be recency bias as well. But I'm just sitting here in my head trying to put together all of the schools. So you have TCU, Kansas. Who am I missing here? Iowa State's got to go somewhere. I'd say TCU's number 1. Let's start there. Right now, I don't know this, and I'm sure there's a graphic out there from their athletics department that has put this together already, but, you know, they were one of a few or one of none, I don't remember, that had, you know, qualified for CFP game, had played in the NCAA tournament, and then had also made the College World Series. I think they might have been the only one, or maybe like one of 2 that did that, but I mean, they've now won they're about to win their second game in the College World Series. They won a playoff game. Like they've not only gone there, but they've won games. And I don't know how often that's happened where you've been able to do that. So I think just the way that they're set up right now, I mean, it's hard to argue with the program that's in a big city like Fort Worth is. And even if it's not the most massive city, it's still bigger than most every other city in the conference, and it's still right there next to Dallas.
They are one of the few in a big city college programs that has a niche within the city.
Yes.
Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth, we know is Cowboys, Rangers, Mavericks, whatever, but it's big-time college football. They're not the number one thing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but they have been on the radar because of their success, and especially the run they had recently. When Patterson was there, they were a pretty good topic, where a lot of times in a major market that's hard to do, and they have put themselves on the map. With this year, doesn't mean they haven't had success before. Jamie Dixon, a couple of nice years in a row at TCU in men's basketball.
Yeah, so I'd have them, I think, at number 1.
They do need to upgrade. I know they just redid the stadium recently, football. Basketball's
great basketball
arena, Dickey's Arena, and also the one they have. Baseball's really nice, and we've been on their campus where we've seen all the other facilities, tennis, etc. They do a nice job.
But see, that's what I mean is I don't know every facility for every team where it is. Yeah, no, that's what I mean is that right now it's going to be a slightly different answer than if, again, we had sat there and studied it. So, I'd have them at top. I'd probably put K-State number 2 right now. Just because of the kind of momentum that they have with basketball, with football as well. Again, don't know exactly where they fit in the facilities race and all those types of things, but I think I'd have them at number 2.
All right. There was a time when in the discussion, even with Texas and Oklahoma in the mix, Baylor would absolutely be a part of it, but this year, football was disappointing. Basketball ended, again, that first weekend for the second consecutive year. And then also, baseball didn't make the Big 12 tournament. This is not a year to really try to prop them up. They've had about a stretch where they've been really good, and overall, for the last 8 to 10 years with a couple of things along the way, 1-11, 2-7. But they're not a part of that discussion right now. We can even ask Mack a little bit about. We have asked him about that. Let's go. What do you think? Oklahoma State or Tech? Kansas, West Virginia, Iowa State. Those are the ones left.
Well, where are you putting Baylor? Is that a
I'm going to put Baylor right now. I'm going to say among the 8, I would put them. Their facilities are fantastic.
I'm taking them over West Virginia. I'm taking them over Iowa State. I'm taking them over Oklahoma State at the time, or at the moment. I'm taking them over Texas Tech still at the moment. I'm taking them over, and I think that's about it. So, yeah, I might have them at number 3 or number 4 there.
Texas Tech's football ended with a nice run at 8-5.
Yes.
Basketball was disappointing. Baseball's good. They're always good. They have the auxiliary or peripheral sports, the non-revenue sports that are also really, really good, especially what they do in track and field. And I'm not going to get into a pissing match about tennis and golf and et cetera. Everybody up and down when it comes to that. Oklahoma State, of course, has a great history in golf, but we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and I know Tech's got the new stadium additions, but Baylor's also doing the indoor, and that's what I mean. We'd have to get in there and compare that and all that. I do think this is a year where Baylor's got to be careful. I think that could easily flip Texas Tech jumping over them or some others jumping over them if they're not careful. But I do think their major successes are recent enough, and there's still facility momentum. And, we don't know what the hell to expect as far as football goes this year. So that's going to we'll find out where they really belong here in the next few months. But I think they're still got some lasting fumes from, a year or two ago that's helping them out right now.
Mick Stevens, TCU, is the only college in history to win a college football playoff game. Of course, that's been going on since 2014. Win a basketball playoff game, the NCAA tournament, and also win a game in Omaha.
That's what I suspected. Yep. That's what I suspected. So that's a very cool honor. I knew that they were close to that. I just didn't know if they were completely alone in that. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, they're definitely number one right now. I'd say K-State 2. I think Baylor, Tech, although, like I said, that could flip by the end of football season because I do think it's not that much of a gap. My question here is, I feel good about that 4, but where do you place Kansas within this 4?
Well, it's a great – Vernon, my good friend Vernon, who always loves it when we talk about other things besides the Big 12. Athletic departments and facilities are two different things. KU is just now starting – their stadium rebuild because of the momentum with Coach Leipold. So that's hard to put them too high, even though Allen Fieldhouse trumps almost everybody. But it's a great point when you say that, Vernon, because their football stadium is just now kind of it's not just a dream. We know what they're going to do with it. Tech is in the middle of adding more. Baylor's there's done. Oklahoma State has been rebuilding T. Boone Pickens Stadium and is a really great place to play their games and also a tough place to win, too.
Texas Tech's got a lot of great momentum right now, but that's momentum. That's not proof in the pudding. Here's our football Big 12 championship, and here's our, but I think that they've got all the potential in the world. But, yeah, Kansas has obviously been there, done that in basketball forever. Their football program's the best. It appears to be in the best shape it's been in a really long time. So I don't know. I don't know exactly where to slot them in relation to Baylor. I think I don't know. TCU, K-State, Kansas, Baylor, Texas Tech,
Oklahoma State.
Does that seem like a fair 5?
Yeah.
But I could be talked into flipping Baylor and Kansas, I think, or I don't know. I'll leave Kansas there,
Let's
though.
put it this way. No matter what you say or I say or what, no one is going to be happy with it because but at the same time, that's why it's a great discussion. It's a hell of a discussion, and thank you, Chris, for asking the question on the Super
I think
Chat.
Here's my order, and granted, subject to change, but I'll go TCU. That one I don't have a doubt about. K-State, I feel, is a very solid number 2. I'll go Kansas at 3, Baylor 4, Tech 5. I'll go Oklahoma State at number 6, Iowa State at 7, and I think West Virginia is a pretty safe bet for that last spot. What do you think of that?
Their basketball arena is really good, and I think they.
I think it depends on how you weight things.
I think it's also with West Virginia. It's because not
Recency
a lot of people
bias?
get to go there.
Well, yeah. I mean,
you don't get to experience them,
right? But I'm not talking just facilities.
I'm
talking like the whole thing, the department, the facilities, and I know Vernon or whatever pointed out that they're different, but that was our question. So, again, that's why I kept reiterating. We don't know the exact layout of every facility for every school in its most up-to-date form, so we're kind of loosey-goosey playing with it here. But I think West Virginia gets weighed down by just simply what all's gone on the past year, the athletic department side of things. They've changed over ADs. They've got a football coach in the hot seat. They just fired their basketball coach. Baseball, that was awesome. Baseball, great. But besides that, as far as your big sports you're talking, they've had some rough seas here as of late, and maybe some of the facilities trump that, but again, I would need to study that more. So for now, I have them pulling up the rear just because the Neil Brown and Bob Huggins stuff, I mean, that's been some bad stuff.
Yeah, the Huggins thing. Oh, by the way, we got to get to Tony Caridi. We're well past.
There you go.
Jack, can we just bring him in right now live? And then can we go to Tony now?
You never told me which number of his to call.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, there you go. There's my list as far as how I would stand with that question right now. But
second one.
Subject to change, and I don't know where I would slot in those other 4. I mean, I would hesitate to put many of them over the schools already in place in the Big 12 because I think the schools in the Big 12 in a lot of ways probably have facility advantages from being in the Big 12 over the years and having a bit more money coming their way. So, yeah, I don't know where exactly to slot them. And I know that a lot of those schools are working on upgrades and doing things to improve their standing. So, yeah, that's something we can return to at a later date.
Tony Caridi, voice of West Virginia. We will get to the future without Bob Huggins. But, Tony, let me ask you this. We were asked a question. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. A question in our chat room about the facilities and overall athletic department. Obviously, football is kind of been up and down at West Virginia. We know what they were doing in basketball. Where would you say West Virginia is when it comes to their facilities? Are they pretty much set? Or are they always possibly looking for more in this day and age of the arms races?
So I think basketball facility-wise, I think you could probably talk to Coach Drew and to a lot of people in the Big 12. I think it's considered one of the top two basketball practice facilities in the league, and it's probably considered in the top 10 in the country. It was a $26 million expenditure when it was first built, and it really it's a fantastic facility. As far as football goes, the stadium itself, it's gone through a bunch of renovations since I've been here, and I've been here since 1984, so it took around 40 years. What we used to call the facility building, I don't know, that's old school terminology, but basically where the players live. Ren Baker, who's now the athletic director here, I know you guys are familiar with from the North Texas days. He thinks that our facilities, as far as the football aspect of it goes, are among, without question, the top 10 percentile in the country. He thinks they're as good. They just finished those off. Stadium-wise, it seats 60,000, and first year was 1980, and it's still fine. Now, how would you compare it to? I think it's like Iowa State-ish. Obviously, it's not as new as Baylor's, not as new as Texas Tech's, but it's overall it's fine. So I would say, we're there. I guess a point what I would make is it does not. West Virginia's facilities do not hurt them in recruiting. I would say that they're right there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how difficult on the campus within the university have the last 3 or 4 days been with the news that Bob Huggins is out?
Oh, as you would know, it's extremely emotional. You've got a guy who was born here in Morgantown, who played here and came back and spent 16 seasons here and gave West Virginia its first Final Four since the days of Jerry West. And as you guys know, just a difficult to describe character in the sense that he's beloved, plain and simple, but he's old school, the whole deal. I mean, he was a different dude. He was the first guy that wore the pullovers that became the standard for what coaches wear nowadays. So it's extremely emotional. It's extremely difficult to see it end, and especially the way that it did. And so it's been really, really hard.
Tony, just how do you see maybe the school, the university, or the community kind of come together? Obviously, very tough on the players, and especially when you've had a successful offseason and bringing guys in. Just sort of what's the protocol there and kind of the expectation at the moment? Is it kind of a time is standing still, or is it, hey, there's not enough time to try and figure out what's next?
Yeah, so it's a good question. You're into a situation now, and you're going to start to look at rules that you really didn't hope that you had to look at. But right. The rule is that if there's a coaching change at this point, once the hire is made, the student athletes have 30 days to make a decision to put themselves back into the portal. As you guys know, portal is closed, but the portal opens for coaching changes. And as you know, you normally don't get coaching changes this late in the off season. And so, to answer your question, people are in a wait-and-see mode. They're hoping that the players that are on roster right now are patient enough to at least give this a good look, wait till the hire is made, meet with the coach, whomever that is, and then make a decision off of that. And I think that people are, hoping that's the set. And, we just had a women's coaching change back in March. I think it was March or April when they made the move, and they went 6 for 6. All 6 of the players that could have come back and stayed did, and that's fantastic. But statistically across the country, That rarely happens, both on the men and the women's side. So you hope that you have a majority of these guys stay put. But again, it's all going to be determined by who the next head coach is.
So you mentioned Ren Baker. We had Ren on a handful of times when he was at North Texas. He has connections with Mack Rhoades, who's at Baylor, as you know. How about his first few months on the job? Huh? You mentioned what are they going to do with football, because there was always a little bit of that, and now this twice. I mean, welcome to West Virginia, right, Ren?
I would say the one thing that you could say about Ren is that he hasn't been bored since he got here. He got hit with it, from day one. There's just been, we had the two incidents here within the span of just a little under 6 weeks with Bob Huggins. He unexpectedly had to hire a women's basketball coach. The previous coach was one and done. And he made a great hire. He took a guy again from the state of Texas, Mark Kellogg from Stephen F. Austin, who did a fantastic job there. And so that was a really good hire. And now, he's working on this. I've got total confidence in him. He's a basketball guy. I mean, he's a former basketball coach. He was on, one of the staff guys very early in his career as a GA with Eddie Sutton. He's just a basketball guy, so he knows this landscape. I think some ADs may be better suited for certain hires because that's their area. This is his wheelhouse. So he's not heading into unfamiliar territory. He knows where the prospective clients are. The thing that comes down to here, guys, is this. In a perfect world, you hire your next head coach, and that's your next guy, and it's on a permanent basis. But because of the calendar, you probably don't have, you don't have as an open available field of candidates as you will next March. And so the question becomes, can he get the person that he wants right now, or does he have to wait? And if he has to wait, then you'll go interim. And if you go interim, then who would that interim coach be? So those are all the different silos, so to speak, that he's working through to see which way this thing ends.
Tony, does the person who replaces Bob Huggins, do they have to have West Virginia ties in some way, or ties to a coach who's been there?
I don't think so. I think that I don't think that's. I think that sometimes plays into it, but no. I mean, look around. I think that's old school to a point. I mean, it's good. It's good. Yeah, Hugs came and he knew West Virginia, played at West Virginia. Yeah, that's okay. Guess what? John Beeline, he wasn't a Mountaineer, and he came in here and just did a fantastic job. And so Don Nealon, our greatest football coach ever, played at Bowling Green and coached at Bowling Green, and Bo Schembechler at Michigan came here and he became, this iconic figure. So I think sometimes that might get a little bit, too much consideration goes into that. I think what you have to do as the person that's making the hire is you just need to find the person that can best fit into the world that you're putting them into. And each place is different. I mean, there's no question that West Virginia has some uniqueness about it that other places don't. And the same could be said, like, I think you need a certain dude to coach in Lubbock and a certain dude to coach in Waco and a certain person to coach in Ames. I think you have to have that fit. And so I think that's the most important thing as you go about to make this hire is who can fit in here. Now, with Bob Huggins, I mean, you talk about a fit. I mean, it was like the perfect fit. And as a result, our fans just passionately follow this team. But the same could be said, after John Beeline established himself. I mean, that people, were into it. People want to win regardless. I truly believe. I mean, you could hire a Martian. If the Martian won, people like the Martian as your coach. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
So you guys know that they want to be entertained. They want to, they want to have someone, that gets it, that, shares their emotions. What doesn't go over well is the person who comes in and constantly is looking for that next, doesn't make that full, hey, I'm here, I'm with you. That's when I think, and not only in this market, but in other markets, when you always are together, every day is a different, like, oh, you got to walk on eggshells that this person might leave. That's what bums people out. That's the thing that never happened with Bob Huggins, right? They knew when he came here that it was to come here until his career as a coach was over. And so they always had that feel as well, that he's one of us and he's come here. And I could go into the history of the state of West Virginia, while have even, I think, more so than most places, have that desire and that feel. And we can get into non-sports topics, about coal mines being owned by outside enterprises and that whole mentality of they come, they take. And people don't like that, obviously. And as a result of that, they like to feel that the person that's with them is truly with them. And I think that's an important piece to it.
Tony, thanks for jumping on. I know it's been a difficult 3 or 4 days, and then see how things progress here with what Ren and, of course, the school and athletic department do. We always appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure. You guys take care.
You too. Tony Caridi, voice of West Virginia athletics, with us on 365 Sports.
I appreciate him doing that, because as the voice of the Mountaineers, that's not a fun gig right now to be asked to go be on a show, because it's not going to be about the typical fun things that it would normally be about. And so I can appreciate that. Some people in his position might just say, like, no, we're just not going to, I'm not going to talk at all.
I can't
talk. And I think his last point was very insightful as far as the West Virginia mentality and the coal mines and the idea of people come in and they take and they leave. And I think that was a really well said and insightful statement for everybody.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, is next. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. 1943, they opened up their doors, and here they are thriving. And they were really, really good and doing well. You can't last since 1943 and not be doing things right, from the product you have, the distribution you have, the efficiency you have, and then, of course, the great customer service. But they moved into a brand new facility back in December, and it's just off the Loop 340 and also Highway 6 on the east side of 35. And so their efficiency, their delivery, their customer service is better because there's more room, there's more space, there's more product, there's easier ways to get more people what they buy when it comes to product, pipe, steel, metal, and so much more. The lengths of what they have when it comes to pipe, steel, metal, tubing, etc. Now, because of the larger facility, they also have the ability, if you want a specific length, they have it. You don't have to buy something, pipe, steel, metal, tubing, and then go get it cut, or you cut it yourself. They'll have that specific length for you. The distribution area around where they have their product is phenomenal. And so that's even better. It's bigger, better, faster, and stronger since 1943. PioneerBoys.com.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. And Mack, for everybody in college athletics and for us to know about when things might pop here with whatever stories, when will you actually officially start a vacation?
Probably we're shooting for the back half of July. So that's at least the goal right now. So always a moving target.
The last time you did that, like a day or two into it, did not the story about Texas and Oklahoma pop?
Yes, it did. Yes, I don't seem to have great luck when I head to vacation, particularly when I head to New Mexico. But yeah, I remember that well. I remember a call from Scott Drew, and I'm like, no, Scott, that can't be happening. And within an hour, it was happening.
Got a question for you. There was a story late last week about San Diego State, the Mountain West Conference, or whether or not a letter they sent to the conference meant they were leaving and vice versa. It's kind of been a back and forth. My question for you, when in fact somebody does leave a conference, and you've been through that with Texas OU, and even before you were here, of course, it was Missouri and A&M, Colorado, and Nebraska. What, in fact, is taken out from anybody who leaves? The exit fees, you hear about that. Is that money they've already earned or money they would have earned?
Say that again when you reference the exit fees.
Yeah, the exit fees, is that something the conference takes it out of what you would have been given in a TV deal if you leave at a certain time or maybe you miss a deadline? Or is that like, for example, the NCAA tournament money? San Diego State's brought in a bunch of money in recent years. Would that be withheld from them or a program because that's in a 6-year cycle?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and thank you for re-asking it. So, I think, in terms of exit fee monies, that certainly could be deducted from any revenue distribution. Now, we're all aware of, what that individual, distribution is per institution distribution is in terms of the Mountain West. And, that distribution doesn't come close to covering the exit fee. So, that particular institution is going to have to find a way to, make a payment, whether it's one-time payment, whether it's over time. I'm not sure how their bylaws are written, but they'll have to find a way to make a payment back to the Mountain West Conference if indeed all of that is true. And then, when you mentioned the basketball units, once an institution officially leaves the conference, they do not have any rights to those basketball units, nor do those basketball units follow them. They end up staying. So whatever San Diego State earned in terms of units, they'll stay with the conference and do not follow them.
So, for example, with Texas and Oklahoma, whatever units they may have earned they've already they're paying their exit. They would not receive those going forward after 24, 23, 24?
That is correct. They forgo those units, and we keep them in that 6-year cycle, right? Inventory of units. Obviously, every year a year drops off, but it's that 6-year window. So yes, you're exactly right.
Would that also count against whatever the exit fee would be, or is that in addition to the exit fee?
Yeah, those are separate. Those aren't part of the exit fee. Now, an institution may argue that they are, but I think a conference would argue that they're not.
Mack, when you look at other possibilities for the Big 12, and we've brought up a couple of programs and you've answered questions about them, but let's look at someone like a San Diego State in a major market. How does that come into play when someone may have a college base or a university campus in a major market, but they really aren't the one that moves the needle? SMU comes to mind. Tulane in New Orleans comes to mind. Is that something you guys discuss much? Although San Diego State now is pretty much what's left because the Chargers have left the city of San Diego. They have just the Padres.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit, but I think what I heard is, look, when you're thinking about conference, membership, future conference membership, and what moves the needle, I think we've looked at them all, and particularly with San Diego State, they've got a great program. I'm not sure, right, whether or not they've been invited, as a potential future member to the Pac-12. I can say assuredly that the Big 12 hasn't officially invited anybody up to this point in time, and so they are a program that certainly should garner attention for all of the reasons why you had mentioned the size of the San Diego market. They've been good, obviously, in men's basketball, but they've also been good in football over the years.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on Tuesdays, most every Tuesday on 365 Sports. Craig?
Mack, amid all this discussion, there's obviously a lot of things just thrown around, some of them factual, some of them maybe a little off base or whatnot. So I wanted to get a little bit of clarity. I've seen a lot of talk about the Big 12 and their pro rata clause, and as it pertains to the possibility of adding certain programs. Can you explain the Big 12 and where that stands? Is there a pro rata clause for other P5 programs additions? Can you just kind of clear the air there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been out there, but there is a pro rata clause that's tied specifically to other Power 5 or Autonomy 5 institutions. That's not to say that depending upon the right group of 5 that may not be a possibility. It certainly could. That would be something that we would have to work out with TV partners. But certainly there is the pro rata clause, and gives us an opportunity if we're to expand and add a Power 5 where we can all keep our individual distribution the same and not go backwards.
So there would not be a percentage you lose each of the schools, the 12 schools now. If you brought in a Power 5, that would be made up equally, whatever program, if a program was to join the Big 12 Power 5 school?
Yeah, I think, again, when you think about revenue bucket,
Mm-hmm.
The TV media partner, you certainly wouldn't go backwards. You'd stay the same per institution. Now, the other buckets, right? The CFP. So, the new CFP and how when they get into year 13, how they distribute monies. Will they do it a flat rate per conference? Well, if they do that, right, then the more teams you have in the conference, the less distribution per institution. Or do they go to almost kind of like the men's basketball NCAA tournament, and where there's a per institution value? So that remains equal amongst at least the Autonomy 5 institutions, and so I that is still under discussion. And then with the units piece, you don't know how that's going to fall, right? You're obviously keeping units from schools that left, but now you have new members coming in, and so you're having to share those units, and are they those schools that you're bringing in, are they bringing in units, right? Are they competitive in basketball? Are they adding to the pool of units, and so to speak, are they paying for themselves when you think about the men's basketball revenue distribution?
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Athletic Director of Athletics with us, 365 Sports. If you had a wish list, you have a pavilion that you can just see it like in front of our eyes as it continues to grow, like McClain Stadium, like the track and field facility, like what you're doing with the football ops and also the enlargement of the indoor. Is there one facility for any sport in particular that if you could just close your eyes and poof, you could make one? What would it be?
Well, I mean, appreciate the question, and I think the one that's been completed, McClain Stadium. I think the thing that did for I think Baylor athletics. Certainly, obviously, having an on-campus football facility, all of that, right? But I think it set the standard for all other facilities thereafter, and I think you see that, with the Clyde Hart track and field facility. I think you're going to see that with the pavilion, the Foster Pavilion. Once that's completed, and the Allison Development Center, those two together, and I think you're going to see that with the Fudge Football Development Center. So, I would certainly put McClain Stadium in the top 5% in terms of football facilities in the country when you think about amenities and just the way the seating bowl was constructed. But I think you're going to see very, very similar with the Foster Pavilion. I think that's going to be a top 5%. I think the Fudge Football Development Center is going to be a top 5% in the country.
Will there be renovations in the Farrell Center? I know you added the women's locker room for volleyball, during, I think even might have been right during or after COVID, and that was really nice. But will that pretty much remain the same, or are you going to tweak that up to specifically fit volleyball and everything else you would put inside that facility?
Yeah, it's going to become the the permanent home, obviously, for volleyball. And volleyball is really, it's become their permanent home over the last couple of years. And we found a way to be able to share with, men's and women's basketball and volleyball. But it'll also become the permanent home of our, 8-time national champion acrobatics and tumbling team. And so we're going to have to make some tweaks and changes. We're going to have to, make some tweaks and changes when we think about the student athlete services area. When you think about locker room and team lounge, theater, sports medicine, you think about, men's and women's basketball, their rosters are, 13 to 15. And you have acrobatics and tumbling, roster size of about, it can vary somewhere between 40, 45. And so, how do we do that? How do we accommodate that? And then, do we change up anything in terms of the seating bowl, within, and, do we have different, seating bowl, configurations for a volleyball match versus an acrobatics and tumbling match, because they're two different sports to watch. So all of that has been discussed. All of that is in process. Meaning, we're trying to figure out how we best can do that, and at what time can we do that, because that's additional funding that is required, and so we're going to continue to raise money for capital projects, and that would certainly be one of them.
Where does facilities and the importance of those rank compared to maybe a few years ago, pre-NIL era versus post-NIL era? Because I'd have to imagine that a lot of the people you go to help spruce up, the Farrell Center, or to build whatever pavilion, or, whatever it may be, those are also, a lot of times the same people you go to for other things. And I know the NIL is very much a work in progress on how all that works, Mac, but just in terms of the priorities, are facilities still where they were, or have they slipped down the list a little bit?
Yeah, Craig, it's a fascinating question. It's a question that, we've been discussing, here, within the athletic department. And, I think, the answer could change, or possibly change, in terms of the lens, what lens you're looking through. So if you're looking through the student athlete lens, prospective student athlete lens, I would probably say it's shifted, and so at least for right now, and I think that's really important to say, at least for right now, I think probably name, image, and likeness is a little bit more important to prospective student athletes than the facility. And I think people could then say, well, if that's the case, why are we even worried about facility? But I think from an infrastructure standpoint, and I think from a long ball standpoint, not just, short term, but long term vision, I think from, at least our lens, administratively, coaching, right, that the facility piece is still extremely, extremely important. And I think will be, when we maybe get out of this bit of chaos that we're in with name, image, and likeness. So it's a great question. It's one we've asked ourselves, if we were to go back in time and, maybe name, image, and likeness and building new facilities mirrored up, would we have made the decision to say, hey, let's put facility on hold and let's just focus, everybody on name, image, and likeness? I think our answer would have been no. We still need to go through with facility, because, again, that's certainly, there's short-term gain there, but there's huge long-term gain. And again, I think name, image, and likeness still, what it looks like 2 years from now is a little bit unpredictable.
Mac, last question, if you don't mind, is baseball had a tough transfer just a couple, like yesterday, in fact, it looked like it might be the face of the program. And there's been attrition. Obviously, Mitch is trying to play catch up, and it hasn't been easy. Are they in a position, in your opinion, is that one of the sports that might not yet be ready to compete with NIL?
Yeah. So, your question obviously is timely, and Coach Thompson and Chad Jackson, who's a sport program administrator for baseball, we've had that conversation, we've talked about it over time, and probably talked about it, more seriously, starting back a couple weeks. And, I think that's a program that, just given the landscape that, we're gonna have to look closely at. And I do think, and we've identified them, but I do think we've got, some former players and donors that have a great love for baseball. And, so we're doing all we can. And, I think that, again, a challenging time for Mitch, but, we knew, that, this, rebuild, this turnaround, that we were going to be faced with some of these challenges. And, there's no better person to lead, in the midst of these challenges than Mitch. And, we're gonna take a couple setbacks, and we've all talked about it. Sometimes you got to take a couple steps backwards before you move forward. And, you never know, the one or two individuals that have left in terms of, roster and or transfer portal, and because of name, image, or likeness, you never know. You never know how that impacts, and that also opens up an opportunity for two more student athletes. So Mitch will navigate it, and we are committed to being nationally relevant, competing at the highest level in baseball, like we once have. And again, we'll do that in due time. And, I'm not sure that you can turn it around in a year, but, and we've told Mitch, you have time. Do not put that pressure on yourself. Let's make sure we do it the right way, and make sure that when we do it, it's sustainable. And so he has time, and I'm really, really confident and at peace about the future of our baseball program.
Thank you very much, Mack. Appreciate your time, and enjoy the rest of the week, and also into your vacation time. We'll see you at Big 12 Media Days here pretty soon as well.
Sounds great. Great to be with you both. And is Paul still on his honeymoon? How long do you get for a honeymoon?
You talk about milking something a little bit longer than it needs to be. My God. this is...
He'll be back next week.
Yeah, he's flying in apparently like overnight Sunday. He will be on the set Monday morning. That is something we've communicated. Yeah, I'm that kind of boss.
Okay. All right. I just wondering if this was a time limit or just unlimited. So
No, it seems to be.
All right.
Thank you, Mack.
There's no official deadline, but eventually something's going to have to get.
Eventually, he just won't get paid. That's it. But he probably doesn't care about that. Mack Rhoades, Baylor, Director of Athletics at Baylor University. Paul, yes, he and Amanda all continue to be in Hawaii, and comes back very much over the late part of the weekend, and hopefully be a part of what we do starting on Monday. And then we'll get out of here again. Jack, when is your vacation? You start that after Big 12 Media Days?
No, I leave next Thursday, and I'm back before Media Days.
All right, good. Okay, because if you're not there, we're not going. July 11th and 12th in Arlington. All right, good stuff from Mack Rhoades, and a lot of it had to do with exit fees and how conferences. I did not know about that basketball, the units situation. That is not a part of any kind of, okay, well, we're going to get $5 million there. We're going to take that out of the $50 million or $15 million or $17 million we owe.
Well, I think the units part was known as far as like the fact that it stays around. I had seen that. Maybe you hadn't seen that. I had seen previously where that sticks around with the conference itself, but based on the example I was giving earlier of the way, and I cannot find the tweet. It was somebody totally out of the blue that I saw yesterday explaining how, they owe San Diego State this much money for the tournament, and no, they wouldn't actually, because that would stick with the conference.
Yes.
So the whole idea
gets that money, yeah.
On the surface, it sounded brilliant. It was like, they'll only spend $4 million of a buyout fee because they're owed 10. They are locked into the 14 figure or the 14 to 17 as opposed to the 34 that it would be if it was a few days later. So being locked into that number, take 10 out for basketball or whatever, and then negotiate it down, and next thing you know, like, your buyout fee is $3 million or something far more manageable than what it was previously. But if you're not able to just slide that basketball money in, which I didn't think about that when I was reading it at the time, well, then no, that's $10 million that's coming out of the pocket some other way, and so that does make a huge difference.
All right, we're running about a segment behind. We'll come back with Craig's Off the Radar. We do not have anybody until 5:30, so we can play catch-up here. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, will join us. The story by Mark Ziegler today, it might have been last night, did the Mountain West just kick out San Diego State? And that is, of course, out there and from Friday and even into today. And has San Diego State left the Mountain West, or has the Mountain West booted out San Diego State? It's a great article in the San Diego Union Tribune from Mark Ziegler, who joined us on Friday. Craig Smoak's Off the Radar is next. Marco's Pizza lovers get it. 5 locations in Waco and around the area where there were none just a few years ago. Now Belmead, which is the store that delivers to us where we are here at the 365 Studios, China Spring, Hewitt, Robinson, and also in Woodway. Marco's Pizza, $3 off large specialty pizzas. You can order online with the code word special3. The unlimited medium one-topping pizzas, only $6.99 each. Use the code word online if you order MED699. The Magnifico pizzas, the pepperoni Magnifico, sausage Magnifico, and then combine the two, the pepperoni and sausage Magnifico. You can order that online with going to New Mag as the code word. 2 medium one-topping pizzas, cheesy bread, and 2 liters of Pepsi or your soft drink, $21.99. They have pizza bowls. They have delivery. They have carry-out. They deliver here to the studio, and so much more. Bob Mock, the owner, all 5 locations in Waco, has been in the pizza business for a long, long time. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers, get it? Marcos.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Priced right both day and night at Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue at Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room at Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. For those just joining us for the first time perhaps today, or you've joined us at other times and haven't caught this segment, it's only twice a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, around 4:45, give or take, and really all it is an opportunity to take a look at some other stories that we might not otherwise ever discuss, sometimes college football related, sometimes not. All depends on the amount of news and what exactly that news is discussing, but not really any college football, I think for the most part, if at all. There's some college sports, though, that I do want to touch on, but do have there is college sports because there's a College World Series. There's also another college sports note that I want to get to as well, but did want to make some mention, I guess, first things first, that we do have the NBA draft coming up tomorrow night, on Thursday night. I know that we'll be very keen on seeing Keontae George and wherever he lands. I know you mentioned at the top of the show. I just didn't know whether we were going to probably get to it or not.
We might do that if we can, even after this, before McClain, if there's room. Well, we could put up the graphic now if you want.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Jack, do you have that? Let's go to this. Is from ESPN.com. It's Craig's Off the Radar, but this is the mock draft. These are Big 12 players: Walker, Hendricks, Grady Dick from Kansas, and then Keontae George projected. This is a projection, a mock draft, at 22 to the Brooklyn Nets. And the second round, Sasser, Williams, Keontae Johnson, and Adam Flagler would be the actual last pick of the NBA draft to the Milwaukee Bucks. A couple of different teams forfeited their second-round picks, so there's only 58 in the first 2 rounds, or the only 2 rounds, rather than 60. So there's that.
Yeah, and I know that I'll have an opportunity to remind you on Thursday with this same exact segment, and it will actually be the night of, but did want to kind of just start talking about it a little bit because it is going to have a lot of Big 12 flavor, and here in Bears country, so to speak, it is going to be a big night for Keontae George, but he's kind of been all over the map. I mean, you see there at number 22. I've seen him, early on. He was at, the lottery spots or somewhere within the lottery spots. He slid down a little bit. I've even seen some speculation he could fall to the tail end, if not of the first round into the early second round. And that seems like it'd probably be too far of a fall for him. 22 would be pretty great. But, yeah, I mean, look at Sasser there, really good player, obviously. Jalen Wilson, Johnson, Flagler. Flagler's a little bit more of a mystery as well.
Yep.
I mean, there's a definite possibility that he could go undrafted. I mean, and he's borderline right there at 58 anyways, but, good to see UCF involved and Houston as well, and particularly when you're talking about a couple of top 10 picks, but, 3 lottery guys in that mock right there, not bad at all for, arguably the nation's best conference. But, yeah, there's a little glimpse ahead of the festivities, which will be coming your way, and I'll remind you again in a couple of days. But Thursday night, 7 p.m., the NBA draft. draft. And part of the reason why I really bring that up now is because there's little to no doubt whatsoever that Victor Wembanyama will be the first pick of the draft. He is actually going to be throwing out the first pitch at the New York Yankees game here upcoming, and just part of, I guess, his sort of press tour as he gets ready to become, the next big thing. 19 years old, averaged 20 and 10 overseas, and 7'4". But you got a little bit of, you're a little leery because he's not the biggest, most filled out guy in the world, and I think that's really where everybody's kind of hesitancy comes from.
Yeah, I saw there was a video of all the great big men over the years, and yes, there was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, and others that were good, but the chances of a player, I believe it's over 7'2", 7'2", as far as the amount of games that they normally play per season in their career is very, very low. And I don't know if it's the foot issue, if it's the height, if the wear and tear of the body. He is all what you want. He can shoot it. I saw him the other day. There's some shooting. Was playing in I guess an exhibition game or whatever. He was fantastic. But I still, who's the kid from Gonzaga? Big, tall, drink of water that was drafted out of Gonzaga.
They've had multiple.
No, the one very recently, very tall, somewhat frail.
Chet
Holmgren. Tremendous talent, especially at the college level, maybe, but I just get worried about the frame. Not that some haven't made it, but when they have a little bit of a thin, what do you call it, skeleton fixture body, I get worried about the wear and tear on their legs, and especially on their feet.
Yeah, well, that's a fair concern that I think a lot of people have when it comes to Victor Wembanyama, but it's also fitting because he is going to be going to the Spurs. That is your favorite team, so you will be getting a little bit of a more up-close look at him than you might otherwise. But, yeah, the NBA draft coming up on Thursday night. It'll be very interesting to see, beyond Victor Wembanyama and what he ends up doing, where the rest of that draft goes as far as the Big 12, and we'll be talking all about it on Thursday. I saw this from Gino Auriemma, and just kind of love this. This wasn't like any big deal in particular, but it was a disappointing year last year for his UConn Huskies, and he was speaking to the media. He has annual charity golf tournament. And I guess there's been a ton of discussion about the year that they had and why it was disappointing. LSU, of course, goes on to win it, but they fell in the Sweet 16, lost to a really good Ohio State team, and they had prior to that made the Final Four in 14 consecutive years, and that's why it was such a big to-do and a big deal. But I just loved his response to the criticism or the worry or the what have you, especially when, he's got the resume. Like, he doesn't have anything to prove, but I guess when you've set the bar so high, there are people that once you flinch a little bit, they're like, right. Oh, is he losing his touch? Is the program falling down? And you know what? Kim Mulkey and LSU, that's a legit threat. Like, she was a threat at Baylor. She's even more of one now just because of the backing and the attention and all those types of things that she gets with being at LSU. But here was his quote on getting over last season and not dwelling on it and just kind of moving forward. He said, this isn't a 1970s rock band out for their 60th tour, and they have to give every tour a name. Everybody's got a redeem team, and everybody's got a reload team, and everybody's got an unfinished business team, and everybody's got all this stuff going out there. Maybe we're not very social media savvy. How about we just shut the F up and win games? How about we just do that? Maybe that's what the tour should be. Shut the F up and win games. And he didn't say F, he said the actual word, but that was his stance on don't have to call them the redeem team or, have a motto or a slogan or anything. Just go out there and win basketball games. And I don't know why, but I found that awfully refreshing. And I found it even more refreshing that he brought up the social media part, because I do feel like there's a lot of programs out there that play it well. It's a tool to use for certain, but there is a lot of that, the marketing that goes into it. And instead of worrying about the marketing side or the gimmicks or those types of things, he's just about playing basketball and going out there and winning games. And it's kind of few and far between that we actually hear that nowadays, I feel like.
Yep.
So love that quote from Gino Auriemma. Meanwhile,
and the thing is that they have for their standard the last 2 or 3 years has not been the standard, but their standard was insanely high. Yeah.
One of the highest standards in American sports over the last, couple of decades, I would think. They're right up there as far as consistency and winning, and, never mind the debate about how difficult that might be in that sport versus other sports. Like, the proof's in the pudding. Like, however you slice the cake, they're still, taking most of it home, and they've been a big part of the ingredients to make, their run as special as it has been and as standout as it has been in American sports. Women's basketball, however you feel about that, regardless. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball, the Marlins have a player that is flirting, although very early on, with a record that didn't look like he would ever even have a chance of really being flirted with all that often, and much less ever broken. And look, nobody's close to breaking it right now, but Luis Arraez from the Miami Marlins went 5 for 5 yesterday to bring his batting average to 400. And they did win, beating the Blue Jays 11-0. That's not really the big deal, though, is the fact that Arraez has now reached the 400 mark once again. 2 times now. He's gone 5 for 5 in games in just 11 days, in just the last few weeks. And so he's done that, and now he's sitting there at 400. Second time past 3 games, and he's gone 5 for 5.
He's done it 3 times this year.
Yeah, 3 times this year. He's done it twice in the past 3 games. So he's now raised his average to 400, and that was following a little bit of a streak where he'd gone 0 for 15, and his average had dropped to 378. So now he's back above that, and according to Elias, 4th major leaguer since 1900 to have 3 5-hit games in a month, joining George Sisler in August of 1921, Ty Cobb in July of 1922, and Dave Winfield in June of 1984, and he's got 11 days to try and do it one more time, and he could be the first player since 1900 to have 4 5-hit games. But yeah, he's already got 3 of them, and he is sizzling hot right now. But it's just kind of cool to see little marks like that compete with not more recent history, but when you're talking about George Sisler and marks like that, and you're talking about a feat like going 5 for 5 on multiple occasions, you're talking about 400 batting average. That's some fun stuff right there.
I love history. I love when people chase history. He will not hit 400. No. Eventually it wears and tears you down. Tony Gwynn, one year hit 388. Boggs made a run at it. It has been since the 40s with Ted Williams. It's just, there's been a lot of great contact hitters. That is what he is. He's not a guy that's going to take you deep. He's going to get a few maybe doubles. He is a singles hitter. He is a contact hitter. And in this day and age of baseball, that's all about power and launch angle and all of that, strikeouts or home runs, I love it. Not because I'm old school. I just love the fact that he can hit the ball. I watched the highlights last night before I went to bed. All 5 of his hits were all different. All of them were different. Like, he reminded me of Rod Carew. I know that's an old school name, or even Tony Gwynn, because they could hit the ball to every piece of the park. Yeah, so if you want just a fun thing to kind of keep track of, and he's not going to end up hitting 400 when all is said and done, but Luis Arraez, a couple of 5 for 5 games here in the last few days, and now at the 400 mark batting average-wise, which, hey, at June 20th, like, that's impressive regardless of where he ends up. 100 games. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, anyways, a couple more stories here. We talked so much about, I guess at times, depending on the headlines, Saudis and their involvement in American sports, in particular with the game of golf, obviously, and LIV and the PGA Tour and all that came of that. Here now where we have had an alliance made, and they're going to have their hands even more in the golf pot. But they've also dabbled in a lot of other franchises and acquiring teams and things like that all over the world, and that also includes players as well. And so don't typically talk soccer on here, but I had read an article the other day about Sung-Hyun Min, who plays for Tottenham, and he was coming up on a contract, or is coming up on a contract, and there was an expectation that the Saudis were going to throw just jillions of dollars at him to come and play over in the Saudi League. He's just 30 years old, which is kind of starting to get up there in soccer terms, but he had gotten targeted, Sun Min, by the Saudi clubs, or by some of the Saudi clubs, and apparently it offered him up to $32.7 million per season to come join Al Ittihad is one of the clubs that was mentioned. They were preparing an opening bid of £60 million. It would also include bonuses, but Tottenham had said, hey, we're not going to listen to offers and any of that. But there was
rampant speculation. Well, today he made his commitment known. He is going to stay with Spurs. He will not be joining the Saudi League. He will be chilling with Tottenham Hotspur for the foreseeable future. And I thought this was interesting because there's going to be a lot of money whipping going on, and we've seen it already in some cases. And I had seen this story without ever thinking about bringing it on the show or anything, and I was just curious of like, man, I wonder if that's another domino to fall.
Sure,
and then,
it is.
You know, how does that keep continuing on? But however, he is going to remain under contract with Tottenham. Will be under contract with him through 2025, and and they're not going to push forward with trying to see if there's another deal on the table with the Saudis that could pull him away. So that seems like it's done there, and there's one area where they have not, I guess, infiltrated fully this particular player, but there have been many others that have gotten deals and will continue to get deals. And at the end of the day, it's just going to be interesting to see where all that stands and how much control just globally when it comes to athletics are actually in those hands.
They are going to try to be a part of pretty much all of the professional sports, not just in this country, but also around the world, as you mentioned, soccer. And that would have been a huge coup for them. They still have a lot of legal hurdles along with the PGA Tour to kind of jump between now and the next few months. All of that momentum after things not calmed down, but things did seem to kind of calm down. Then all of a sudden you start to have people wanting to go, wait a minute, we need to discuss this. And a lot of that's just blowback. But they are trying to acquire what I would call sports inventory, which is players and or franchises and or leagues. And they have the money to do it. And they did it. And now you wonder how much more they want to do. And I think they just want to do a lot more.
Well, yeah, but in the case of this particular player and Tottenham not going to listen to offers. He's going to remain under contract. They're not going to, make a deal, and just interesting to follow just kind of the efforts that are being made all across the globe in that regard. And when somebody says no, that's going to be, a significant story in so many ways. Meanwhile, College Baseball World Series will close with this. Oral Roberts took down TCU in their original contest, but TCU a little bit too much for Oral Roberts, I guess, here in the last couple of hours as TCU is moving on, winning their second game of the College Baseball World Series, 6-1 the final score there. And the Frogs, the year of the Frog, I should say, just continues on as they've had quite the run of, as we mentioned earlier, the only school to win a college football playoff game, win a game in March Madness, and had already won a game in the College World Series, but now have won their second as well, and in doing so have stayed alive. So now where does that leave us? Tonight at 7 p.m., it'll be Tennessee versus LSU. That is also an elimination game. So Oral Roberts gone, and now either Tennessee or LSU will fall as well. Tennessee beat Stanford last night to eliminate the Cardinal and stay alive. LSU fell to Wake Forest in a close game and had the lead for a good chunk of that, but Wake Forest able to take care of business in the end. So somebody from the SEC is going home, either the Tigers or the Vols. Again, that'll be coming up later on tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN. And then tomorrow, you'll have Florida taking on TCU at 2 p.m. on ESPN. And then in the nightcap, it'll be Wake Forest versus whoever wins, Tennessee versus LSU. That will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on ESPN. So another doubleheader from Omaha coming up here not only tomorrow, but probably the day after as well, potentially, depending on who wins those games. But yeah, Florida, TCU, Wake Forest versus Tennessee or LSU. But Tennessee, LSU tonight should be a good one, and those are a few things off the radar.
Oral Roberts did not go down without one last little, wait a minute, bases loaded, 2 outs, down 6-1, but there was a called third strike to end the game. All right, when we come back, we'll get to a couple of stories we haven't. Do you know how many thousands of student athletes are in the transfer portal even today? How many thousands? Guess the number. Thousands of student athletes who are in the transfer portal. I had Max Olson dig that up because I had a tweet earlier that I sent. I don't know if I sent that to you, not Jack, about how many this particular person said were in the transfer portal. We'll come back with that story and a couple of other notes as well. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, an appointment on July the 6th. Looking forward to it. Yes, I said that. Looking forward to going to the dentist. How many times have you in your life ever thought that, said that, believed that? Because for the longest of time, I avoided him because I was not and I knew I had problems. I knew that I had not taken care of my dental hygiene. So what's it like to know that you're going to go to the dentist and maybe there's going to be a root canal? That would have kept me away for months. Or maybe a cavity or something that has to be looked at. Last time I was there, they fixed a little cracked tooth I had in my lower right molar. But I'm going July the 6th, getting ready for that. Get all that out of the way before Big 12 Media Days and looking forward to it because no matter what, I know that the staff at Stonewood Dental will take care of me. I know that Dr. Steve Childress, who's unbelievable at what he does as a dentist, he will take care of me. He put me on a game plan, so to speak. Put me on one of those like visions of this, and this, and this is what you have to stop. Like the stupid, annoying, and habit of chewing lozenges deep into the night that was only just sugar coating my teeth forever, and that's why I've had to play catch up. But I haven't had a lozenge. I can't remember the last time when. It's Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, the chat room is in 5 different directions right now. We appreciate all of you. The super chats from Chris and John Teal. We appreciate those too. Let's see. Kim Coulter said he clicked on the link I put up that Katie Rader had sent to help donate money for the fund at Parrington, Texas, who had the tornado late Friday. So in the late afternoon on Friday, I put that up, and maybe Katie can put it up herself. I tried to send it to everybody. But I also know this, that I just got a text from one of the viewers. I can mention his name. Maybe he can text me and ask me if I should or not, who bought 20 of those books for Rachel Barbeau. The books about what she's relentless and what she's been through to give to the women who are a part of that shelter in Birmingham, Alabama. Kim is incredibly unbelievable when it comes to supporting our clients and other particular donations that we're a part of. And thank you to Kim and anyone else who donated to that as well. Now, here's an inside HBCU football. BJ Jones put up a tweet. There are over 6,000 athletes in the NCAA transfer portal. That's wrong. It's a great tweet because it looks about right. I can't even imagine it that high. I sent Max Olson a tweet earlier before the show and asked him how many. Max is saying 15,000 student athletes. Now, there's a difference between athletes who are in the portal who are non-scholarship, but Max is telling me there are 15,000 student athletes in the transfer portal. That's just hard for me to fathom. It's hard for me to fathom because you hear about, again, a lot of them get picked up, whether we were talking about West Virginia basketball has had success with Baylor, or Oklahoma State, or Texas Tech, or whoever, what they've done. That is just a lot.
For context, that's about the size of Baylor University.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
15,000, yeah.
All students.
That's a great point. It's a great analogy. It's a campus full. Now, there's most campuses are much bigger than that, but it's the size of the Baylor campus enrollment of 15,000.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that's a BS tweet because there's no way it's that many. That seems like a lot, just what he said. And, how many programs are there possibly, losing players to come to that number? But, when you're, I guess, talking all levels of college athletics, we always think of Florida or Texas or Georgia Tech or, Boston College or whoever. We think about, the Power Fives and the Group of Fives, or just, NCAA football, the football bowl subdivision. But there's FCS and there's
Division II,
everything else. Every other level that is there in play as well. So yeah, I guess if you add all of that up together, that comes out to that number, and that's crazy, but I'm not surprised. Honestly, it wouldn't be surprising unless they said more than there are actual athletes, and then you'd be like, wait a second, but I balked at that initial figure, and you're telling me it's twice as many as that. So
22-23 school year, over 21,000, but 15,000 of that 21,000 are actual scholarship student athletes who are on scholarship. So if you take every Division I men's basketball team, there's 360 of them, and say each team had 3 transfers, that's 1,000. And that sounds like a lot. And yet there's 21,000, but 15,000 of that are student athletes who are on some sort of scholarship.
There's a lot of baseball as well.
Yeah.
Colby Branch, we just talked about him yesterday. He's getting a little bump in whatever, NIL he might have been getting or whatever, winning he was wanting to be a part of. He's going to, go make a decision and probably get a bump in wins and get a bump in NIL money, and he won't be the only one. You look at these games and, how many times they mention transfer guys on these teams? Yep. It's constant. These guys are all he played at so-and-so last year, and, now he's with LSU and, on the mound in the College World Series, and so there's a lot of that in baseball. And I don't follow closely enough to know what volleyball would look like or what golf would look like. But, yeah, if there's – I don't know off the top of my head how many sports there are in general, and not every sport is on every campus. So I don't know what that exact number is. But, shoot, there's double-digit, 20-plus different sports, I guess, in total, and thousands of campuses.
If you count the FCS, or Division I basketball, which is not FCS because that's a football term. Division I, there's like 350-something. Division II, there are 300 basketball programs. And in Division III, 438. Now, remember, that's men. Now you can double it or whatever when it comes to women's teams.
So that's 1,000 teams in just basketball, and everybody has at least one. So there's 1,000. It's probably more like 3,000 though, right?
Yeah,
and then
I'm trying to think of
NAIA. Men's basketball, and then there's women's basketball. And we know the football side has been an absolute mess in terms of just all the activity, and mess is maybe not the right word to use, but it's been all over the place as far as just the number of people going and changing scenery. Baseball, like I said, there's been a lot of activity. So, yeah, I mean, if there's like 20 sports, 1,000 per sport, I mean, maybe we're shortchanging it, actually.
Approximately Division I, II, and III plus NAIA, about 1,300 programs. That's men. Women, pretty much for every one of those two schools that have men's basketball, pretty much because of Title IX, will have a women's basketball program. So now you're looking at 2,500 or so basketball programs, men's and women's, and then you say, okay, 3 per team, there's 7,500 right there. That doesn't include baseball, football, and all the other sports that are involved.
So, yeah, when you break it down like that, it makes sense. That seems like a really high number, and then again, having thought it out now, it doesn't seem like that crazy because there are so many different sports, so many different colleges and universities that are, it's happening everywhere. So crazy that it's, I guess, this hectic. Not surprising, though, because this was to be expected when, everything sort of changed course, but would love to go back in time, even just a few years, and tell people that, hey, there's going to be 20,000 student athletes per year that are transferring in every single sport, as a whole. Maybe some people wouldn't have blinked an eye at that, but I bet there would have been a lot of really nervous administrators thinking about that and what that would look like, and now they're living it.
And that's each year. That's at least this year, and maybe it kind of calms down. I don't know. I want the story. It's like the recruiting stories, the class of 2010 and where they are 5 years later. I want the story eventually that is how many players, student athletes on scholarship entered the transfer portal when it first began, 3 or 4 years ago. How many of them ended up somewhere? What's the percentage they went up compared to down and just disappeared?
I feel like there's a lot of things that have been super well thought out in terms of like recruiting coverage and various other things. And I don't spend enough time on some of those sites to know every little tool that they have or not. But man, for all the attention that's paid to like the moment players sign and what that ranking looks like and all that, I know that there's retrospective articles on occasion, especially during the offseason, of like, let's take a look back at the last 10 recruiting classes for Tennessee and where would they rank now. But there's not nearly as much coverage about what the classes actually resulted in versus what they are at the time of signing. And so there's some programs that have like top 5, top 10 classes that got showered with praise and fireworks going off and look at them and all this exposure, and then the class sucked, and ultimately didn't do squat. And that doesn't get talked about nearly as much.
That just like disappears. It's like it fades into oblivion.
Same thing with transfers. There's very rarely the follow-up on like how actually did that work out, I guess, unless it's specific cases. But yeah, I'd like to see more of that just to kind of balance it out. But I understand why the initial reaction is the big, energetic, exciting, because it's fresh. It's new players, new faces, new schools, and that's where all the excitement lies. But then after that, yeah, we don't always hear the end of the story and what exactly that looks like. But man, it makes for some interesting, storylines and discussions, and certainly for, I don't know if interesting the word is the word that Mack Rhoades and people in his profession would use, but it's been entertaining for those of us on the outside, even if we're not always happy with every single story that comes from it.
I will say this, the combination of the transfer portal, NIL, realignment has not taken away my enthusiasm for covering college athletics, but it has at times just worn me out with just like annoying. Like, okay, and then there'll be something else. And now, there's the EA Sports and who's going to get paid and all that. That's kind of fun because the game's coming back. But imagine if you then ran an athletic department like Mack or Chris Del Conte
other Kirby Holcutt and others. It would just be almost like, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people that have said, just a random passing on Twitter or something, like, I don't like this anymore. It's not what they grew up with or what they're used to, or I don't know, they don't like certain parts about just probably the turnover on the roster, not being able to sit back and just enjoy somebody, knowing they're going to be there and that your arch rival's not going to come poach them in the offseason. I mean, those are parts that I could definitely see being annoying, but at the same time, for every player you lose, you probably gain a player, and you take them from somewhere, right? So it all goes full circle. But, yeah, it's not for everybody, and, we'll have to check back in a few years and see where all of it is and see what the fan base looks like. But they're still millions strong and big brands that aren't going anywhere.
One quick note, it's a local note, but also a note about one of the elite players in the state of Texas, Micah Hudson, who has visited recently Texas Tech, was going to visit Austin and Texas this upcoming, or his official visit, has canceled his official visit to Texas. That's from several different reporters. It's covering not just Texas, but high school football in general. I'm not sure. Again, canceling it, I don't know. Does that mean he's ready to make the decision? Is Texas Tech the leader in the clubhouse? You've seen that in a commitment. Well, you got to keep it until December when they sign, because we've seen what's happened with some of the others along the way. But that's kind of a nice little hit. Not positive for Texas, and they'll be just fine. But that is right here in our backyard with Micah Hudson, the talented receiver from Lake Belton High School.
Well, he's a stud. I mean, there's no doubt he would be a huge coup for Texas Tech. I mean, a massive, maybe one of the biggest players they've ever signed in that program's history. I don't know, their exact history player for player, but I would have to imagine he'd be right up there, if not the top guy ever signed by that school. So still needs to do that. That's kind of the important part, is there's been a lot of smoke and a lot of arrows pointing towards him and ending up in Lubbock. Be a huge deal for them, obviously. Would go in line with the recruiting momentum they have. But it is recruiting, so don't count your chickens before they hatch, right? And I think that there's a long way to go here, but they're certainly sitting pretty, and there's reason to feel good about their opportunity and their chances here for a stud 5-star wide receiver.
All right, I just Googled all-time commitments, and it's got a bunch of different names. I'm
Maybe
not
like
sure.
Breeden Fihoko.
Yeah, that's the one
in
2015. Jack Anderson, the lineman. Was he from Mineola? I can't remember.
No, he was from
Michael Starch from La Vega was but not a 5-star that I don't remember.
Jack Anderson was funny because he was a guy who, he's now in the NFL, but I remember he was a teenager that had fun with the recruiting process and basically just was collecting offers at one point and got a Baylor offer after basically wanting one and making it known he wanted one, and then turned around and committed to Tech. It was almost like he was just collecting them, and then had some really kind of, I guess it was just, it was trash talk because he was going to a school that was in conference and so they were going to be playing each other. But he rubbed a lot of Baylor fans the wrong way. That was years ago, and he was 17. But, yeah, he was a big commit for Tech back then, and he was fine. I mean, he's in the NFL, but, yeah. Yeah,
Fihoko was a 4-star, though, among the others we mentioned. And, again, there's now, 3, 4, 5, 6 different type of rating services. It's not just Rivals or 247. There are many, many others. All right, when we come back, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on and that I have counted on plenty of times over the last couple of years. Got into a couple of wrecks and needed my car to get fixed up, take some bumps and dents and scratches that were in the paint. Had a car scrape up against me in a road rage incident because this person just had to turn left and I was in their way, even though I was legally sitting there in that lane, and it turned out that that was all proven correct in the end. But no matter, I still had to go get my car fixed up, right? Because some idiot decided to, rub up against me and screw it up. Scratches, mirror bent, hanging by wires, door dented, all of that. It looked like a mess, and I was really worried that even if I got it fixed up, it wasn't going to look the same. But I took my car over to Richard Carr, even though I hadn't bought my vehicle there originally, and they hooked me up. And you can look down the right side of my vehicle now, and I don't even think trained professionals could necessarily pick out exactly where everything went awry. They did such a fantastic job with it, and it looks like when I initially received it. So that's where you can look if you're looking to get your car fixed up, even if you haven't bought your car from them originally. Oil change, they can take care of that. Tires, body work, they can take care of all of that. All you got to do is get in contact with their award-winning service department, which is standing by to keep you on the road. And you can go to the website, richardcar.com, to see their service specials. You can go over to the website and set an appointment for quick and reliable repair. You can give them a phone call or show up in person, and good folks like Donnie will greet you and help you get squared away with a schedule of when to bring in your car, how long it will take, how much it will cost, and all those various things, working very well with your insurance company. Now, maybe you're just in the market for a vehicle. Well, good news is that's right up their alley as well, and that's actually what they do above and beyond their great customer service. Right now, they've got a lot of new and pre-owned vehicles all over the lot. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks, brand new, and for qualified buyers, you can save $3,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500s. Qualified buyers can also get special 2.9% financing and save money on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks as well. If you're looking for SUVs, they've got deals on the Buick lineup of SUVs, the Encores, the Envisions, the Enclaves. Right now, qualified buyers get low financing plus save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premium, $3,500 on Buick Enclave Avenir. And maybe you're not looking for body work or an oil change. Maybe you're not looking for a new car either, but you are looking for something, and you're looking for a pre-owned model because that's more to your budget, just more to your liking, whatever the case may be. They also have a lot of quality pre-owned cars and trucks all over the lot right now as well. All of them several of them under $20,000. They've been thoroughly inspected. They're affordable, and they're ready to finance for almost any credit rating. So whatever you're looking to do, getting your car fixed up, getting a brand new one, getting something that's already got a little wear but not too much tear on it, check out the people that have been in business for 24 years in Central Texas, the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagney is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagney. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, PettyClinicLowT.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, 610 in Houston, with us on most every Tuesday, except when the NFL business gets a little bit important. Like, it's always important, but when he has a lot of things to do. John, hey, let me ask you this. The Astros have had now McCullers. They've had some injuries. They're good, and they still have plenty of time to make a run, but is there a little bit of, not panic, but concern in Houston with them?
They stink. I do besides writing 3 columns a week for my station's website and going on 5 days a week, I do 3 podcasts with Sean Pendergast, my host, in the mornings, and he and I do a thing called Utopia Football Podcast, and we started doing YouTube. And when we were talking, and I knew we were going to Astros, so I held my nose. And he didn't realize what I was doing. He thought it was a nosebleed. Because I didn't say anything. I just held my nose while he started talking about the Astros. And he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, can't you see what I think? They stink." And I wrote a column yesterday detailing all the reasons that they stink. And yes, they have injuries. They're missing 3 pitchers. You know, they let Verlander go. They offered him 1 year, $40 million an option. He got 2 years an option from the Mets for that. I don't blame him for leaving. And then Lance McCullers can't pitch. He's going to have more surgery. He wants to be back next year. Luis Garcia won 15 games last year, was terrific in the playoffs, World Series. He has Tommy John. He's out for probably 2 years. And then Jose Urquidy won 12 games after 6 starts. He went on the IL and coming back till after the All-Star break. And they got 3 guys pitching that ought to be in the minors as the starters. If they get to the playoffs, they've got a big 3, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, and Hunter Brown, that's good as just about any. And in this column I wrote, and I spent 2 hours researching this, you know, the Astros have their worst record at this point since 2016, last time they didn't make the playoffs. And the Rangers have their best record at this point for the first time since 2016, the last time they went to the playoffs when they won the division. The Rangers have scored at least 10 runs 16 times. The Astros have done it 3 times. So the problem with the Astros, and I told people, yes, before you start slamming me, I understand about the injuries. Jose Altuve didn't play for the first 2 months. Yordan Alvarez, their best player, has been out for 2 weeks and might be out a couple more. It's the problem is all their good players who are not playing the way they did last year or the way they're capable, and that includes 4 members of their bullpen, starting with their closer, Ryan Presley. There's 4 relief pitchers from what was the best bullpen in baseball, and right now it's not the best bullpen in the AL West because 4 of them are not pitching anywhere near like they did. And then you got a guy like Jeremy Pena. He's not as good as he was in the last year when he's MVP in the ALCS, the World Series. Kyle Tucker, while his average is better, he's not hitting not on a pace or close to the pace that he had last year, 30 homers, 107 RBIs. Alex Bregman's been up and down. Jose Abreu, he had 3 home runs on the road. And all the Astros defenders, you guys are wrong. You need to apologize. And then he's thinking it up again. So they may make the playoffs. When I went on my show this morning, I was listening to them talk about chasing the Rangers. I said, guys, they're not chasing the Rangers. They're chasing the Angels. And the Mariners are 3.5 games behind them. The only thing an Astros fan can be sure of is they won't finish last in the AL West.
Was there a bit of a buzz having Justin Verlander back in town getting his World Series ring from Dusty Baker?
There was, Craig. And I'll tell you something interesting. When they won the World Series, and I'll never forget, they were all on the field, and MLB radio and TV were there, and they were interviewing Verlander, and Kate Upton came up, and of course they put her on. Anybody in the right mind would put Kate Upton on. And so she was talking about how much they loved Houston. The fans cheered. You know, they would never boo a player like her husband. She just couldn't imagine living somewhere where they boo the player. And I'm thinking he came out in a Mets uniform first time, and a sellout crowd gave him a standing ovation. When he got his World Series ring, they gave him a standing ovation. And so he's not getting that standing ovation from the Mets fans at Citi Field. Now, as bad as the Astros are, he may pitch a no-hitter tonight. Max Scherzer pitched his best game of the season last night. So Verlander versus Framber Valdez, the top 2 pitchers on this staff last year. I can't wait. I'm going to be watching the College World Series, Tennessee and LSU, because LSU is going to have the first 2 players picked, Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens. So I've been trying to watch them. And of course, I'll watch the Astros till they get behind early. By the way, there's a great manager coming to Waco that you guys may not know about, and you might want to promote it since you don't get managers coming through Waco much like this. Our 38th softball reunion, the current Tribune Herald and their ringers versus the old guys and our ringers. We're coming to play our annual game on June 30th, and you guys are all invited to come out. You can play if you want to. You can watch. You can come have dinner with us on Friday night at Paparolo's, Saturday afternoon at George's, or Saturday night at the Hall of Fame. You're invited.
You know, that's one of the first things I did when I the first year I moved in 2010. Craig, you came to one of those as well. Enjoyed that a great deal. That's an unbelievable event. It really is. And then all the hospitality and camaraderie in the evenings, or as you mentioned, at lunch, even on Saturday. That's awesome.
We have a blast. We started in we used to play when I was at the Trib. All the local media guys started playing baseball up at Lake Air, the teenage park. And a couple of our guys that were there, like Keith Randall, used to hit home runs over to the Richfield grass at Richfield. So we're going to start playing softball. So we did until we all scattered. And in 1983, Steve Fallon and I came up with the idea of having a reunion softball game, and we've been doing it every year since. And I am the only person who has showed up every year.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, with us on 365 Sports. All right, other than, and I'm leaving maybe blank here, the NFL parity exists because, is there something I'm missing other than free agency and the way they schedule the next year?
Well, really, the parity, there's not parity. The Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl 3 times in the last 4 years and won 2, and then the Patriots, Brady won 8 or 7, and Belichick won 6. To me, what the Patriots accomplished at a time with free agency and the cap was the most impressive thing of any team in history. I always said, what if Vince Lombardi or Tom Landry or Don Shula or Chuck Noll had a salary cap and had to get rid of players? Would Chuck Noll have gotten rid of Lynn Swann or John Stallworth, Jack Ham or Jack Lambert? They didn't have to make decisions like that. And that's why what Belichick and Brady accomplished, to me, is the greatest feat in history. But the key is you've got to have a great quarterback. And then you got to put the pieces around him without letting the salary cap tear your team up. The whole idea of the draft and free agency and the salary cap is to try to help bad teams get good. And I've seen Cincinnati twice go from being pathetic to being a Super Bowl team or a Super Bowl contender. The Buccaneers were awful forever until Tony Dungy got there. And I love to see that with teams. Now we're seeing a renaissance with Jacksonville under Doug Peterson. So it can happen. And sometime, maybe, it'll happen to the Cowboys, and half the country, which wasn't born the last time they got to a championship game, will be able to witness the Dallas Cowboys back in a championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And, boy, I know that makes Cowboy fans mad, and I don't give a squat.
Yeah, that's the way it is, man. It still amazes me. It still amazes me. It's been 27 now. Is that right? 27 years?
I was barely born.
Yeah, no, that's
Greg, were you born 27 years ago?
Just barely, John. Just barely.
How
Just
old,
like you.
how old were you? How old were you 27 years ago?
27 years ago, it would have been like 10 years old. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, at least you might be able to remember last time the Cowboys were. And I do. I hope Jerry Jones wins the Super Bowl before he dies. I'd like to see Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy wins 12 games back to back. Everybody says he's on a hot seat. Jerry Jones isn't one of those coaches that's owners quick to fire his coaches. We all know that. So I don't think he is unless they don't at least make the playoffs.
One of his biggest regrets, he said, was he got rid of Chan Gailey. He was not patient enough with Chan Gailey. And, he went through 3 5-11s with Dave Campo, which was a kind of a transition for them from all the superstar players that were retiring or injured or no longer with the franchise. So that's a very good point. John, thank you very much. Hopkins and Dalvin Cook, can they end up in the same team?
Hell no, they can't end up in the same team unless they both take the minimum, and all they want is the most money they can get at this stage of their career.
Because it's always about the money. Yeah. Thank you, John.
Second Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us on Tuesdays on many things. A lot of times, a lot of NFL, but he's really been writing about a lot more since retirement, not just a beat writer or columnist for the Houston football team, but also many things he also does. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. This is 365 Sports. The city of Woodway has their 4th of July parade. Well, it's on 4th of July, 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. It's free. City of Woodway and the Public Safety Department hosting their annual 4th of July parade. Line up, get ready for it at 8:45 at the Crossroads Fellowship Church. It begins at 9. Participants encouraged to wear their red, white, and blue attire. Non-motorized bikes and skateboards are welcome. City of Woodway, which is on the southern part of Waco, has 7 hotels. And I think they might be building 1 or 2 others. I'm not sure. I probably need to check. But there are plenty of hotels there, which is basically just attached at the hip with Waco. If you're looking for a place when you come in to go to Magnolia, the Silos, Balcones, or some of the great places, or a Baylor athletic event, or just coming in town to visit, they have hotels in Woodway, not just the city of Waco, but in the city of Woodway. The 4th of July parade, 9 to 11 on 4th of July. It's free to the public. Discover Woodway.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House. Samantha Duvall is in charge of marketing and also distribution. Memorial Day, right around the corner, 4th of July. What are some of the best opportunities for people if they want to order online and maybe get a bundle when they have those holidays in front of them?
TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order. We've got plenty of family bundles. Probably our most bestseller is our sampler pack. That gives you a variety of our jalapeno and cheese patties, our regular patties, ground beef, our garlic link summer sausage. Right now, all of our family bundles are on sale. It's the best time to buy it. You can buy steaks individually. All of our steaks come 2 to a package. We ship Monday through Wednesday. So make sure you get your orders in early. That way you can get them almost the next day.
The owner, Aaron Duvall, his daughter-in-law, Samantha Duvall, head of marketing and distribution, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's Jeep season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are hot. Get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with $5,500 in total values, or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with total values up to $6,000.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Pretty good feedback with Gilbert Canales, also Matthew Tolman, their thoughts about even Fresno State, the Pac-12, and Hawaii. Well, they could get that 2 a.m. TV slot. Selfishly, I'm sure a lot of people would love for San Diego to be a part of a lot of conferences and or Hawaii for just that. So there we are with that.
I mean, here's the one thing is beyond the bungling of their message to the Mountain West, I mean, they are coveted. I mean, they are a team that the Pac-12 pretty clearly wants. They're a team that the Big 12 could want. And, beyond that, there's not other, major conferences that are lining up. But, they've got a couple options, it seems like. Although the bungling has left things at a little bit more of a question mark because, now it begs the question of did they overplay their hand?
Right.
When does the Pac-12 finally come back to them and say, like, okay, yeah, you guys can jump now. We're all good. The TV deal's all set up and all that. That is a pretty big question, but they're wanted, and that's, I guess, better than not being wanted at all.
Yep, there's always going to be, and yesterday with the USF Director of Athletics and Mike Kelly, what they weren't ready for in 2018, 19, or whatever, but now trying to position themselves like others in San Diego State or Fresno State or whoever, or Memphis, who are on that list. Jack McKenzie has been producing. Jack, when did you start? Last Thursday?
Yep, last Thursday.
Has this been, since your time of joining Sikkim365.com, one of your most enjoyable stretches with this company?
It's really no different than any of the others.
Jack hates me. He does. And there's not really,
That's not
there's
true.
only 5 or 6 reasons for it. Garrett's out. He's back tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm sure you partied tonight because of that. And I would too, because you've been doing that plus all the other stuff. You post stories, write stories.
I don't know
and
about
much
party,
more.
but I'm going to have a nice glass of whiskey.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You don't have to do too much. Just have a nice glass of whiskey. That's a good point. Paul is on vacation. Won't be back till Monday. From what I've been told, Monday's show. The longest stretch of anyone being out in Sikkim history.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
sure.
Not even like I've been doing these little 3 to 5 day weekends. I don't even know if I could be gone for. I think I could if I was in Hawaii or on a golf trip, but I cannot be gone that long because then you have nothing left the rest of the summer. There are no days off.
I don't think Paul will be back until Tuesday's show.
What in the hell?
I'm taking 11 shows off in a row.
He told me he was flying overnight, but he would be on the air on Monday the 26th.
Okay. You might have more updated information.
No,
than me.
that's going to happen.
I think you got more updated information than he has.
I have not texted him since he left.
He sent me. I remember.
one thing, but that was like
I've got
the
a
day
text of the day they got married, and then I think there was one thing that he and Garrett and Craig and I were in something about. I don't know what it was, sports, but. So we may not have anybody here Monday. Craig and I take off Monday, and we'll just see. Might be the best show ever. We'll just like
Emery, let's do this.
Yeah,
that'll be the day the Pac-12 either puts together the most unexpected TV deal of all time, or they completely fall apart,
or all hell breaks. Also, there is the Monday Tuesday. So he's gone for 2.5 weeks, comes back, and then Monday Tuesday, July 3rd and July 4th. Barring something changing in college athletics, looks like will be a day we can try to get away. So, man,
yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good little spell of time. So hopefully he's enjoying it, and still got a few days to enjoy the rest of it. But
got a lot of days.
Yeah, got a whole week practically. Actually, he's got a whole week. If he doesn't come back, he's got another week. But no, I mean, it's his honeymoon, so hopefully he's enjoying it. I did make the comment to my sister, who's now getting married, of like. So is that normal? Like, I don't really know. I'm just asking because she's like, no, that's not a normal honeymoon. I was like, so you're not having some 2-week? No, I'm not doing that. I think she was a little bit jealous actually. So, like I said, hopefully Paul and his new bride are having fun.
Yeah, I got a feeling they are. Hopefully we can have some fun around July 4th. Smoak, you gonna have anything on the grill for the holiday?
Yeah, I will. I mean, on 4th of July, I'll go play golf that morning, and then you know what I did the other day? I actually bought a Brazilian marinated. It's a knife that they put it on, and it was very, very good. It was fantastic. I got it from Waco Custom Meats. It was a custom marketplace. It was very, very good.
Yeah, by the way, if whoever wants to make a big decision involving college TV contracts or expansion or whatever, realignment, let's not do it that Monday squeeze between the weekend and July 4th on Tuesday. That would be some awful timing. So let's just not. Yeah. Let's just wait till July 5th.
For the sake of everybody, here's one final note from Roger. Craig, get married. You can have a lot of time off, apparently.
yeah. I need a vacation. Will you marry me? And no, that's not a bad idea.
Thank you to everybody that's been a part of the chat room today. Thank you to, of course, our great sponsors from when we started in April of 2020 to where we are and continue to grow today. One quick note, again, we mentioned 4th of July is just really a couple of weeks away. We have TexasBeefHouse.com. I just sent a text to Samantha Duvall. We're going to get in, I'll record something tomorrow for some of the specials, but they do have the sampler bundle, the Wagyu beef sampler bundle, the Great Divide, which is 20 pounds of product, including a mixture of hamburger patties and ground beef. So they have the steak, the Wagyu steak, brisket, ribs, hamburger patties, hamburger meat, and, of course, the great steaks, too. It's Waco, a place that you can, again, I love their deal. Where can you get the best in Wagyu beef? You can get it by going to TexasBeefHouse.com. From their ranch, their farm, and where they cultivate everything from start to finish to your plate in your kitchen and in your house. And in fact, get ready for it for 4th of July. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com. You'll be glad you did. All right, thanks a lot. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to all of you. Every day, we'll be back again tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Tonight, 10:30, 365 Sports tonight on the CW. Thank you and have a great night.